Hello, good morning, and welcome to this Horizon Europe Implementation Day. My name is Peter HAERTWICH. I am a head of unit in the European Commission's Directorate General for Research and Innovation. I will introduce you to this meeting today. The meeting is in the first instance addressed to the ones of you that have recently been successful and your proposal for Horizon Europe was selected for funding. And you are now in the stage of preparing together with the Commission or the executive agency your grant agreement. So we will go through all the steps and obligations that are necessary to turn your proposal into a signed grant agreement. I have to say that we had to switch on very short notice the technical platform for the meeting because for obvious reasons, some of you might have followed the latest news. We cannot access our studio today from which we normally do these things. So we hope that nevertheless, technically things will work well. So I will quickly guide you through the day today. We start with a general overview on the process for grant agreement preparation. And then we will talk about the processes and procedures for the validation of your legal entities, for the ones, of course, that are not yet validated. And then we focus on the scientific technical description of the project, meaning how to transfer the technical annex of your proposal into the part of the grant agreement that describes what you are going to do. Then we will have a bit of legal background, so legal and financial aspects on what are the obligations that you are signing when you sign this grant agreement, and also how you could avoid potential errors in the financial management of your grant. That's it in a nutshell. We will have questions and answer sessions linked to each of these agenda points. The questions and answers will be handled via Slido. So please, in parallel to watching our session, open a browser window to Slido. And the code for today's event is Horizon 2. So it's Horizon and then the figure 2 without a space in between. You can start putting in your questions immediately and throughout the whole day. We would also invite you to look at the questions that are already there before you start. And if you see that there are questions that also interest you, you just upvote them and like them. And we will then, after each session, go through the respective questions in the order of number of likes so that we can at least reply to all the more popular questions under each section, if the time is not sufficient to reply to all questions. I think this is it by way of introduction. I would now hand over to my colleague Petros BELSIS, who will guide you through the whole process of grant agreement preparation. So please, over to you, Petros.
Hello, good morning. Thank you, Peter, and welcome to all of you who are following the event. We will introduce the first, we will do just an overview of the grant agreement preparation and just. Okay, I guess now it should be okay, the presentation. Is it okay? Thank you. Okay, so we can, a small overview. So we will go through the main steps of the grant agreement preparation. We will explain to you what are the needs for you in terms of setting up roles in the system and access management. We will speak in brief about some changes that you have to do in the system in order to avoid, let's say, technical or other implications when preparing for the grant agreement signature. And I will just have a small overview of the technical aspects, but for that you will also, it would be ideal that you stay with us because my colleague Isabel will give a detailed explanation with the screens and all the other steps in a little later. So, indeed, the grant agreement preparation is not so lengthy when we compare it to the duration of the project process, but a very essential one because it is actually, as it is the name also implies, it is the moment that you actually sign the agreement. So it is very essential that you perform all the steps with the correct effort and attention. As you see here, we have, of course, you have seen the first stages of the process, which concern the publication of the call. You have said you have applied, and once you have passed the evaluation and you receive the result, then the process of grant agreement preparation starts, which has a few steps that also need to be taken care and a time frame that we will explain just later. So, as we said, it is not a very lengthy process in means of time, but the steps are very also important to be performed correctly in order to have the result, which is the signature of the grant agreement. So, what are the principles that we will explain? As you know, we have set up a single gateway for all the exchanges, so everything goes through the funding and tenders portal, and this is important because from there you can manage all your interactions, whether they concern the setting up of essential elements when registering your organization, when preparing for proposals, when later you, as now we will show you, you prepare for the signature of the grant once it is selected for funding, and later the reporting. So everything that you have to do in order to manage the life cycle of the project goes through a single gateway, the portal. There is a deep integration, so all the underlying, there are different IT systems that manage the various phases of the grant. But to you, it's all transparent because they are all parts of the portal. So by clicking a specific link, you can go either to modify the attributes of your organization if needed, or you can go to submit a new proposal, or you can sign the grant agreement, or later do any interaction, upload deliverables, prepare reporting and everything. So you have a uniform experience, and of course, the business processes, all the supporting business processes for the different phases and different needs of the project, they are all set up in the portal. Another, let's say, another achievement that we have to offer to you is that there is no longer, with very few exceptions, there is no longer need to sign any document and either to upload it or send it to us by mail. So the documents, once they are ready, most of the time they are prepared by the system automatically. Sometimes the project officer also needs to add additional information. And then once the documents are ready, you need to preview. And then you, before you sign them electronically, the document by the system, it is sealed electronically, so no more able to be modified. We have also enabled the digitally signature of the documents, and this happens through the system. You don't need to have any additional software or anything else. So we don't use any more blue ink signatures or uploading of documents, so maybe with one exception. So this is the case of affiliated entities. So when they sign the declaration of honor, for example, because the affiliated entities do not have direct access, then this is done by the corresponding beneficiary. But okay, this is a slight detail. In general, the principle applies everywhere. We have enables digital signature of the documents by just using the account in the portal. And there I will already make a small remark. As you understand, and you also know, we record, for example, also all the transactions. And this is important to not share the account. So if you have accounts that are used by the institution, you don't need to create one and share it, but you can apply different roles or the same, let's say, role attributes to different persons. So you can create an ECAS account, a second ECAS for another person, and you can give the same privileges. And this is important because like that, we know who performed which action. Instead of course, you know, if there is a shared account, which is always not advised to do, then the account seems to be performing, but you will also not know who, if you were sharing the account, used to do an action, but maybe you will not be happy with it. We also have a single common document repository. So every document that is signed or sent to you by the Commission, it is shared in a specific place for your project, and there you can access it. The rules also are applicable across different workflows and different parts of the lifetime of the project. And they are equivalent. And as we said, no matter which tool you are using, if you are going to submit or you are going to manage your grant, the business rules are always there and they are uniform and do not change. Here we have an overview diagram of the overall grant agreement preparation process. So this acronym GAP is just a short acronym that you will encounter maybe in the presentation, but we refer to it when we talk about grant agreement preparation. Also, if you see the GA, it means usually, I think, yes, it is here already, but okay, we refer to it as grant, to the grant agreement by using it. As you see, there is the grant agreement preparation, so the steps all until signing the grant, they are time bound. So the financial regulation imposes specific limits in managing the grant, and in overall, from the time that the call closes and the submission is finalized for all the projects, we have 8 months in principle to until we sign the grant agreement that were selected. And this, of course, there are some exceptions due to the specificities of the ERC, for example. So there is a specific exception that is granted by the financial regulation for this type of actions. But in general, the rule is that there are 8 months from call closure. So what is important for us is to know that also there is a part involving also the applicants, the potential beneficiaries, in order to manage effectively the time frame that is set up by the rules. So now if we see this time frame of 8 months, it's not all of that can be used, and as we will explain. So there is a very complicated and difficult to manage, let's say, process, because also the evaluation is a large part of that time. So it usually takes up to 5 months. And this leaves us, from the moment we receive the letter, it leaves us with 90 days approximately, so 3 months to do the grant agreement preparation. So you need to also for any action, if there are, let's say, some kind of specificity, you will receive, when you receive the evaluation result letter, and let's say you are informed about the successful outcome, you also always have there the dates that inform you how much time you have also to complete the process. Now, so then you need to be acquainted with the time that you have, and then also you need to be on your side very effective and try to notify us in case you encounter any delays. And also you need to be aware that if there is non-respect of the deadlines, it could potentially lead termination of the action. Of course, if there is some kind of unforeseen or other event, not, let's say, it's if it's due to force majeure or another incident, there could be some kind of exceptions. But we talk in the general case that on your side, you also have to be reactive. So a small closer look then without the other parameters, the other processes. So just looking at the grant agreement preparation, as we said, we allow up to 3 months to sign the grant. Therefore, you need to start preparing the data in order to sign the grant agreement. And for that, the first, let's say, phase, you should consider 3 weeks approximately in order to load all the necessary data and also update with additional data that we require you prior to signing the grant. After you have this first round of, let's say, encoding of the data, you can already try to submit and contact your project officer. It is very likely common, at least, that there will be some changes required. The rule says that 2 or 3, let's say, repetitions will be enough, so you will be able, maybe it's not even needed to do it, you will be able to sign it immediately, or maybe after 1 or 2 exchanges, corrections or additions of data that you will be requested, you will be able to sign the data. So you should, as you see here, we count approximately 6 weeks, which means 2 months. Therefore, do not consider to go up to the last minute, because there are also potential cases that your project, if it is subject to some ethics evaluation, ethics issues, or there is, depending on the kind of area of science that you perform. For example, if you are doing research with human embryos or other stem cells or other things that are subject to ethics clearance, that might require also other processes and getting clearance from the member states, and it could be that you will have to wait even 1 month more to get this clearance. Therefore, do not consider to use the 3 months limit, and try to be as fast as possible in order to be on the safe side. Now, looking deeper into the grant agreement preparations and the detailed steps, the first step is that you receive an invitation to prepare for the grant signature. Then the grant preparation process starts. So there is some part, the main part in the beginning is performed by the beneficiaries, of course, who need to submit all the data. At the same moment, all the entities which are not yet validated and participate in the process will need to be validated. So you receive on the same time, for those organizations that are not yet validated, you are contacted by the REA validation services. And then you need also there to provide some documents and define the legal representative, or the LEAR. You will see detailed presentation in a little later. And also you need to start setting up proper access management rights in the system. So you need to give, for each beneficiary, you need to give a specific access in order to perform the necessary actions. Once all this is done, you can sign electronically the declaration of honor. So each beneficiary needs to electronically sign the declaration of honor. The data that you submit in this first step will be reviewed by the project officer. It could be the case that further iterations will happen between coordination and the coordinator and the EU. On the same time, we are already starting to do some checks on our side, for example, ex-ante checks, like the financial availability of the coordinator, which is an essential contact point and receives the payments. We need also to make the reservation of the funds for your project and also prepare the award decision. Once everything is done, the coordinator signs first, and then the counterpart, which is the project officer, will sign the grant, and then it is starting being effective. And in order to accede to the project, the beneficiaries, because the project is signed directly by the coordinator, then the beneficiaries need to sign the accession forms. And after that, the project starts and you can start implementing the action. You receive also the pre-financing if applicable. So in the grant agreement preparation, in principle, we have the non-negotiation approach, which means we consider that all the projects are mature enough, so they are evaluated based on merit. We consider that they are ready as is without any changes. We don't say fund based on a prerequisite that you change something. We have a very competitive process. Therefore, all the projects that arrive to this stage, we consider them as mature without any additional changes. And you will prepare the grant agreement based on the proposal that was selected for funding. So in principle, this means that you don't need to do changes to the subject of the action, but it doesn't mean that no changes at all will happen. For example, if there are changes that you need to do due to the legal or financial requirements, for example, if the status of a beneficiary is public or not public, and that changes during the validation or for any other parameter, that could have an impact in the funding that this beneficiary will receive. Then there are requirements that are obligatory for you. In case you are subject to ethics or security scrutiny, it might be the case that you will have to implement an extra deliverable in order to comply with all the rules concerning ethics or security. In case there is a need to remove a participant, of course, this is a more sensitive case because removing a participant is not so straightforward, as it could mean that the evaluation happened including this beneficiary, and just removing it has to be considered because it could alter the capacity of the consortium. But even that can happen, so in that case, you will have to contact and advise with your project officer. Also, there are, of course, obvious errors that could be corrected or inconsistencies, and I mean, for small changes that do not affect the implementation action. And of course, we need to also make clear that that the fact that we don't do negotiation doesn't mean that we don't have any control. So we do on our side also eligibility and viability checks. So we have to see, for example, if all the entities are not for any reason prevented from participation, or the viability, as we said, the financial, especially for the coordinator, in which case you might be asked to do some changes to the structure. You could, for example, needed to change the coordinator. We also do anti-fraud measures and risk-based controls based on our data and the database that we have. The message that we also need to pass is that non-compliance or breach of the obligations or the applicable rules can result potentially to the termination of the grant agreement and rejection of the proposal. So here what you need to do in order to set up correctly the role. So the minimum configuration is 1 LEAR per organization. Of course, all the organization needs to be validated. So the first step is to have the legal representative appointed. Of course, the primary coordinator contact is the person who submitted the proposal. So it is the representative of the coordinator. We need also to have 1 contact per beneficiary. And then you need to assign, the LEAR assigns a person who has the capacity to sign legal documents, the legal signatory, and the person who will sign the financial signatory documents later for the reports. From this, let's say, set of roles, only 1 remark also that the organization can have more persons to be appointed to sign legal documents, but the coordinator needs to, and the participant contact needs to assign a specific from this list of persons one that will be assigned to this specific project. So these are all role-based. So it could be one person that has all these, let's say, holds all these roles. So we talk about roles, and then the assignment to a person is a different story. In order to apply this security access, as you know, you have to use your RECAS account. And in our system, we have we are assigning, let's say, the role-based attributes. With your help, you can configure in the tool to which person you appoint for performing such action. Here you see an overview of the process concerning also the roles, the specific role attributes that we explained. So we start by signing the grant agreement, by preparing, sorry, the grant agreement. And then at the first steps, on behalf of the coordinator, the person, you see the project legal signatory. So you have to have a person that signs for this project, legal documents, and also for the beneficiaries, everybody needs to sign declaration of honor. Then you fill the data. At some point when everything is ready, the part of the coordinator signs the grant agreement, the commission counter signs, and then all the beneficiaries confirm that they participate in the project by signing their accession form. Yes, here are some remarks. Okay, the Horizon Europe is running already for 2 years, and we have already notified before. A new change in Horizon Europe is that specific the public entities, research institutions, both private or public, and higher and secondary education institutions, public and private, need to have a gender equality plan. And this applies for all member state organizations, this type of organizations, and also for associated countries. So all the countries which are associated to the program and member states, if you are one of these four types of organization, if you are a public body, for example, or university, you need to have a gender equality plan. So in order, of course, considering that you have it, you have prepared the document, you have already made all the necessary changes in the level organization to have the specific resources dedicated for that to collect data. So if you want to, let's say, also declare it in the system in order to not face issues with the grant agreement signature, this is a task that needs to be performed not by the person who manages the project, but by the legal representative. So it is something that needs to be done at the level of the service. So here you will log in again in the portal. You see here, you have the area My Proposal, your grants. You go now to the My Organizations tab. So the LEA goes there. You select from the actions here, Modify Organization, and then there is a tab Legal Information. So you need to edit it, and then it has at the down, let's say, part, declare a gender equality plan, which opens a new page with a few extra questions. So, of course, you need to declare that you have a gender equality plan, considering, of course, that you have it. And then you need to answer a few questions. The first 4 are obligatory, which means that if you fail to address one of them, then the overall value will be set to no. So you need to have at least the 4 basic requirements. For example, you need to put it in to put the document in a visible place in the organization website. You need to have dedicated resources and collect data. And then, of course, there are also other questions that are advised to have them, but they don't prevent you from declaring a gender equality plan as positive. So if you have everything like that, then you can advance without having any issues to the preparation of the grant. A small also, this I will not stay a lot because it concerns in principle, it concerns few organizations, but we know that there are few organizations that have the international organization status, but because if you have not set at all a value, which probably is a no, I mean, they are very limited, for example, the Red Cross or the Nuclear Research Center in Geneva, the CERN, but not having set up a value, even if it is a no, may cause an error later in the system, so you will be blocked. So you need to set up, again, the leader has to always set up a value. If you are an international organization, you will be subject to validation. And of course, international organization doesn't mean that you have different branches, but you need to be an organization that government, let's say, it's governmental representative from member states or other countries. And this is a status that is being validated, of course, if you declare that you are. And if you are also, if the main, let's say, the majority of the organizations have their headquarters in Europe, then probably you are subject also to declaring the extra flag, which is the International European Research Organization value, which is new also for Horizon Europe. So just to warn you, probably it concerns very few organizations, but you also need to declare a no in case you are not, in order to avoid later having issues. Again, this is set up by my organization, legal information, and in that case, you set up the value to no, or in case you are, you can select yes. And a small, let's say, overview for some technical aspects. Now, as you see, we have here the portal, the area, and once you have selected, you have a project. If it is going for grant agreement preparation, you go here, you manage your project. Later, even you will be able to manage your project from here, and that enters you in the area of the project management. So you could have one or more projects. On the left side here, we have basic information about your project, the duration, the type of action. Here, you always can access either archive processes, the latest legal data of your organization. You can have a communication. And from here, you see there is this kind of what we call metro line. It shows if there is something ongoing. It would be all active or deactivated. It changes the color. From here, you can enter to the system. We will show very briefly the grant agreement preparation. Here is the declaration of honor, so you can sign it as you see electronically. We have the processes that you can see. This is you can always have a new interaction with the European Union, for example, even later for amendments or communication. And the button to submit to EU is visible only to the coordinator. But if you enter here to manage the data further, you are entering in another system. But for you, again, as we said, it's transparent. So this is the system from grant management. And here you will see an overview of tabs that you have to fill data. I will not stay here more because we have a detailed presentation by my colleague Isabel. And this is the legend of the icon. So if you see green means everything is okay. If you have the yellow, it means some information is missing but not blocking. And here, for example, there is something that is preventing you and is blocking. So what are the points for attention? You should try to avoid repetition when copying in the tables part A, the part A, the structured part that we have. You will need to transfer some information in the proposal. You will see details in the next presentations. If you have ethics or security, these recommendations, these are binding, so you may have to add an extra deliverable, and you might need to do changes in the description of action. The same for security, and you need to be very attentive to, let's say, not to miss the deadlines. If you encounter any problems, be proactive. Always try to communicate the problems that you have and come up with a plan. And you need always to collaborate with the project officer who is there to assist you with any problems you may face. And that concludes my presentation. And if you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer.
Thank you very much, Petros. I'm looking at Slido. I couldn't see any question yet. So maybe we wait a few moments to see whether anyone in the audience will put a question. I repeat the Slido code is Horizon 2, and you also see it here on the slide. So looking again to Slido. And you should select among the rooms the one for this first presentation, which is overview of the grant agreement preparation process. There seem to be no questions. So then I think we can already go to the next presentation. And I would ask our colleague Alberto Romero and also Elin SIDZHIMOV to start their presentation explaining what has to be done for the validation of legal entities, the assignment of a PIC, and the financial capacity assessment. I guess you will also cover the appointment of the so-called leaders. So please go ahead.
Good morning. Yes, I am just start sharing the presentation. May you please confirm that it's visible for you?
Yes. Yeah, it's visible.
It is.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Elin SIDZHIMOV, and today I'm here with my colleague Roberto Romero, and we are going to present to you the Central Validation Service, what we do, the legal validation, the financial capacity assessment, in a little bit more details. But first, on this first slide is the outline of today's presentation. As already mentioned, in the first part, you will see what the main tasks of the REA Central Validation Service are. Then we will have a little bit closer look at the process of registration of participants. We will talk about the legal validation. What does it mean? The verification of the legal existence and the legal status of the entities. And we will discuss the legal entity appointed representatives, or the so-called leaders. Then my colleague Alberto will go into a bit more details on the topic of financial capacity assessment. And on the last slide, we will share with you the main guidance documents that that will answer any questions that might occur. But we will, of course, have a question and answer session after the presentation. Now let's start with who we are, what we do in the Central Validation Service. As already mentioned, we verify the legal existence and the legal statuses of entities. We need to do that in order to be sure that your entity is currently existing, and to know under what legal status, whether there is something specific apart from its legal form. Is it a private, a public entity, international organization, and furthermore, we'll talk a little bit later in the presentation. As I said already, we are responsible also for the once you would like to appoint a legal entity appointed representative for a year. We do validate this appointment as well. We prepare the financial capacity assessment. We perform the analysis of third country control over the entities. Once the entities are valid, there some legal changes might occur. So we also do validates any such changes. We are responsible also for the performance of ex post status verification, such as the SME and mid-cap status checks. We assess the universal takeovers of validated entities. So once an entity ceases to exist and it's transferred to another entity, merged, or it turns into another, we also perform such validation. And we also, in cooperation with DigiBudge, are responsible for the creation of the legal entities files, and when necessary, bank account files. We will go into more details on the bank account files towards the end of our presentation. On this slide, you can see an overview of the validation process, which starts with the registration of your entity. When you obtain a participant identification code or a PIC number, then even though they are showed one arrow after the other, the verification and validation of legal data, the LEAR appointment, and the financial capacity assessment are happening simultaneously. So this is for the first time I would like to highlight that once you are requested specific documents, it's good to submit them all as soon as possible, so we can start all these processes simultaneously. But now let's start with the first part, which is the registration of an organization. This happens at the proposal stage. So you need a PIC number in order to submit your proposal. However, there are two possible scenarios here. The first one, on the left-hand side of the slide, you can see that you have the option in the participant register to search for a PIC number that your organization might already have. So for some reason, you might someone within your organization might have registered a PIC number to submit a proposal back in time. So when you introduce some search criteria such as the legal name, registration number, VAT number, the system might already identify that your organization has a PIC number, whether it's valid or not yet. The second option is that your organization participates for first time, would like to participate for a first time, then you need to start a new registration. This is the option that you see on the right hand side, and now we are going to have a look at it. Once you start the registration process, you are invited to introduce the organization's data in a step-by-step wizard, and the system performs once again a duplicate check I'm sorry. The system will perform again identification check to find out whether your entity already exists or not. On the after that, if the system cannot identify it, you follow this step-by-step wizard by introducing the legal information, additional authorized users. So apart from the person who registers the entity, this person can indicate other people who have the right to modify the PIC number during this stage. And at the end of this process, once the registration is completed, you receive this the personal participant identification code or a PIC number in a declared status. So this declared status is the necessary one for you to submit your proposal. After that, once your proposal is submitted, at a later stage, the colleagues from the operational department who are managing the code that you're participating in might request the validation of your PIC number. Once they request that, start the second part of the validation process when the Central Validation Service will send you a request for documents that will prove the encode the information that you already encoded. So we start the verification and validation of the legal data. To be validated, the PIC, it is necessary for you to be able to sign a grant agreement or a contract. You cannot sign it with a PIC in a declared status. So the validation is an important step for everyone. The advantage of the centralization of the validation is because it is performed only once. So when you sign your first grant agreement or a contract, after that, unless there are some legal changes linked to your organization, you don't need to go through the process of validation or leader appointment again. It is reused for future participations. We perform the validation in a harmonious way for every participant. It's the same process, and it's performed on the basis of the submitted documents that we have requested from you, in accordance with the EU financial regulation and the rules on legal entity validation, leader appointment, and financial capacity assessment. They're both publicly available. You have in the last slide access via hyperlink to them in case you would like to know a bit more in details. It is the validation is required for all beneficiaries and affiliated entities, or under Horizon 2020, they are called linked third parties. The PICs of the affiliated entities are frequently included in the consortium during the GAP, must be introduced in the Funding and Tenders Portal Grant Management Service System. On this slide, you will see a little bit more information on the actual term what legal entity is. So this means any natural or legal person created and recognized as such under national law or international law that has legal personality and that may act in its own name, exercise rights, and be subject to obligations. However, the financial regulation envisages that not only a legal entity with legal personality can submit proposals and sign grant agreements. There is also the chance for legal entities who do not have legal personality to be validated with their own PIC number. However, there are two prerequisites that needs to be met. The first one is that the entity needs to have representatives who have the capacity to undertake legal obligation on behalf of the entity. So this is similar to an entity that has legal personality. And the second one that needs to be simultaneously met, it's that the entity should be able to offer guarantees for protecting the EU financial interest equivalent to those offered by by entity with legal personality. And in any case, if the entity cannot be validated with its own PIC, it still and does not have independent legal personality, it still can participate just by using the PIC number of the legal entity to which it is associated. So, for example, in the case of a university department that does not have its independent legal personality, this department can simply use the PIC number of the university itself. This is the same for example, if a multinational company has different branches that would like to participate, the branch, it's not considered to have legal personality or does not meet the above mentioned criteria, then it needs to use the PIC number of the mother company. Now I would like to, we mentioned earlier the legal status. So this is important because in some programs, there might be, for example, differences in the funding rates, often for non-profit entities. So the legal status of a non-profit entity needs to be proven. Even if you encode it in the beginning, we need to receive a legal document that proves this non-for-profit status. Usually, this is indicated in the statutes of the company. So we need to verify against the statutes that entity is currently functioning under, that it cannot distribute any profit. For some programs or calls may establish specific criteria for SME organization or middle capitalization companies. So these statuses are also verified against submitted documents. Here on this slide, you will see examples of different status. As already mentioned, it could be private or a public body, non-profit or for-profit organization, small and medium-sized enterprises, middle capitalization enterprise, non-governmental organizations, civil society organization, international organization, research organization, or secondary and higher education establishment. For some of the statuses, it's envisaged that supporting documents need to be uploaded so the status is verified, as already mentioned, for example, for non-for-profit and for-profit. But for other statuses, it's the self-declaration. It's also considered sufficient. On the next slide, we'll go a little bit more into details on how the participant register looks like. This is a screenshot from the moment of when you log into your account. Under my organizations on the left-hand side will appear the PIC numbers of the organizations that you have registered under your profile. And to access the organizations that you need to manage at this moment, you need to go to Actions and Modify Organizations. From there, it will lead you to the profile of your organization, and you can see if there are any pending actions that needs to be taken. Specifically, in order to communicate with the Central Validation Service, you do it from the Messages tab, and here we can see that there are two messages which are linked to the document request. From here, you can read what documents need to be submitted. However, to submit the requested documents, you need to follow the hyperlink that takes you to the task center. In the task center, you receive pending tasks which specify what action needs to be taken. In this case, it would be the action of requesting specific documents necessary for the legal validation. And it's important to upload them through here because like that, once the task is performed, the system identifies that it is not longer pending, so you will not receive automatic reminders to submit specific documents, whether registration or a VAT extract or the legal entity form. So here you can see how it looks in the task center and how you need to upload the documents. To get your entity validated, there are specific documents that we are going to request from you. The first one is the template for the legal entity form. It is automatically generated by the system, needs to be filled in, dated and signed, and then re-uploaded in the system. We would also need a recent VAT extract, not older than 6 months, or in case your entity is not registered for a VAT, a proof of VAT exemption. For private law bodies, another document that we would request is the registration extract. Again, a recent document is necessary, so we can be sure that your entity is currently existing and under what legal form or any other specificities. For public law bodies, we would require the law, decree, or the decision with which the entity is established and under which it functions. For international organization, Petros already mentioned, we would need the treaty of establishment, so for this specific international organization. And as already discussed, for non-for-profit organization, the statutes are essential because this is the document where the non-distribution of profit is set up. So when we request the documents, we strictly specify that they need to be official, first of all, meaning that we would recognize only documents issued by the national authorities. And we would not accept substitutes of these documents, such as self-declaration or sworn or solemn statements before notaries or other judicial or administrative authorities. They need to be uploaded by the participant, so by your organization, in a scanned version via the participant register, so they will stay in this database. And another requirement is that we would accept documents in any of the EU official languages, but if a document is submitted in a non-EU language, we would require this document to be accompanied by a free translation in English. And free translation means a translation that you provide with the document, either a machine or from a translator, but that you take the responsibility for the translation itself. Now, on the same timeline, we go to the part of the LEAR appointment. Again, it looks like it's after the legal validation. This is correct, because to have a LEAR, you need to have a valid PIC. However, we perform both processes simultaneously. Now, what is the LEAR? This is the legal entity appointed representative, and under the single electronic data interchange area, or SEDIA, it's a mandatory to have an appointment LEAR. This is because the LEAR notifies the EU of any changes in the legal data or status of the already valid entity. So this is the person responsible for the management of your PIC number. And they submit any legal or financial documents once they are requested. They also are responsible for the management of access rights of person in the organization, so they can appoint specific, but not at the project level. And the LEAR may nominate other account administrators, but also individuals who are authorized to sign contract and grant agreement and their amendments, the so-called legal signatories, or L-signs, and who are authorized to sign financial statements, the financial signatories, or F-sign. Again, the LEAR appointment follows the same logic. It's organized with a step-by-step wizard. So in this case, you see a screenshot where there are several authorized users, self-registrants, and now it has been requested that the LEAR appointment needs to be performed, and the add LEAR button appears on the bottom left, as you can see on the bottom left, and it opens this step-by-step wizard where you need to introduce the required information. Please note that the name and the email shall match the name as indicated in the EU login account. So if the EU login account, you have registered yourself with 3 names, here also the 3 names need to be introduced. So they need to be identical. And any new LEAR would need to be registered with a new email address, same for a new EU login account. An important part here that it's not mandatory, but it's strongly advisable to have, it's to introduce a mobile phone number. This is the quickest way to activate your your LEAR account once the LEAR is appointed. So there are two alternative ways to receive this PIN code, but if you have introduced a mobile phone number, you would receive it via SMS to this phone number. So this is the quickest way. However, if it's not urgent, the PIC is being sent by the service desk via post. And if you have any problem for some reason that you have not received your PIN code, you need to send an email to the functional mailbox indicated on the slide, in case you haven't provided the mobile phone number as already explained. The next step after indicating the LEAR data is indicating the data of the legal representative. So this is the person who has the ultimate right to represent the entity. So this is the place where you introduce their data, and the legal representative and the LEAR could be the same person. You just need to on the specific field introduce the same data again. The documents that we would require for the LEAR appointment are, let's say, 4 different types. The first one is the LEAR appointment letter and roles and duties. This is a form that is generated by the system. You need to sign it. So both the legal representative and the LEAR need to sign it and date it. The second document, the declaration of consent, it's also a one that is generated by the system, and this one needs to be signed and dated by the legal representative. And then the third and fourth types of documents are the ones that you need to upload in the system. So number 3 is the official proof of identity for both the legal representative and the LEAR. So this could be a passport, ID card, but integral copy without any information being hidden. And we also would need a proof of empowerment of the legal representative. This could be indicated in one single document, for example, a registration document that strictly indicates who the legal representative is, or this could be several documents, for example, the act of appointment, which could be minutes of the meeting when the person is appointed as legal representative, plus if indicated in the status that this specific role has the right to represent the entity. Again, that's how it looks when the documents are requested and you need to upload them in the participant register. As already I informed you, we are also responsible for the bank account validation. It is also it exists in the participant register on a specific tab for the bank account, and if you cannot identify that your entity has already a valid bank account, you need to introduce one. We will receive the request from your side to validate the bank account, and according to the documents that we request and you upload, we are going to perform the bank account validation and inform the LEAR once the bank account validation is completed. It is again the step-by-step wizard looks similar to the previous one, where you follow several different steps to complete the bank account validation. And now it's time for my colleague Alberto to introduce you and to go a bit more into details on the financial capacity assessment.
Thank you so much, Selene. I hope you can hear me well.
Yes.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Alberto Romero Quicios from the Central Validation Service, and we are going to see together what the financial capacity assessment is. As we can see in this slide with the overview, not all organizations within the consortium are subject to financial capacity. So we are going to see also when it's needed and what to do if it is. Of course, if you have questions, I'll be glad to take them at the end of the presentation. So let's start in the next slide with the legal references. First, we have the financial regulation, establishing the need of the financial capacity assessment, the exempted entities, and the documents to provide. We will see the documents in a couple of slides. Then we have the rules on legal validation, LEAR appointment, and financial capacity assessment that you should check, because this guide includes all the details about the procedures of the legal validation and the preparation of the financial capacity assessment, documents, requirement of these documents, etc. These rules are available on the funding and tenders portal, but you will find also a link at the end of this presentation. Then we have also the Horizon Europe regulation, established in its Article 27, the entities that are subject to financial capacity assessment. These organizations are mainly coordinators if the requested funding for action is equal to or greater than 500,000 euros, but also other beneficiaries might be checked if there are grounds to doubt about their financial capacity. The exempted entities, according to the financial regulation, are public bodies, international organizations, natural persons in receipt of education support, and natural persons in need. In any case, if the financial capacity assessment of your organization must be checked, the Central Validation Service will contact you via your PIC account in the participant register, but also the appointed LEAR will receive an informative email. So let's see in the next slide how to identify if we have received such a request. So as we can see, in this is how the display of your PIC account. So if you have received a request in relation to the financial capacity assessment, you will identify it because the financial capacity tab will display a red flag, but also the messages tab will warn you with a red dot and the number of messages to read. And automatically, as you see the subject of the new message received, you will see that the request is regarding the financial capacity assessment, because we always include in our communication in the subject financial capacity assessment. This first message includes all the information regarding the procedure, the documents you have to provide, the minimum content and requirements of these documents, requirements about languages, also what to do in case you are under some specific cases, the deadline to provide the documents, etc. Of course, if after having read this message you have still some questions, you can always reach us via message in the participant register, because for traceability reasons, this is the main way of communication with the Central Validation Service. You can do that by selecting new message that you can see there in the slide on the upper right side. By clicking there, you can send us a message and we will reply to your questions. What is very important is that in your message, as subject, you include always financial capacity, LEAR appointment, legal validation, whatever your question is related to. That's very important, and that will, for us, it will be easier to trace them and to reply in a shorter period of time. As I mentioned before, in this message, you will see the documents you have to provide in case the financial capacity assessment of your organization must be checked. So in the next slide, we are going to see these documents. These are balance sheet and profit and loss account for the 2 most recent closed and approved financial years. These documents must be in the official language, because we assess the documents always in the official language, and must be dated and signed by the legal representative. If the financial statements have been drafted in a non-EU language, you have to provide also one informal translation into English. But all these details are included, as I mentioned before, in the message you receive. If your organization is a new established entity without closed accounts, closed financial statements yet, you have to provide a business plan, including the financial projections for the first years of activity. For those entities requesting individually more than 750,000 euros, also an audit report on the annual accounts is required. In case your organization is not subject to an audit report, you have to provide a self-declaration signed by the legal representative. This self-declaration is available also in the funding and tenders portal, but you will find a hyperlink in the message request for documents. You will find in your PIC account in the participant register. And also very important to provide explanatory notes on the accounts, because there are sometimes some missing information in the balance sheet and the profit and loss that it's included in the explanatory notes, such as the maturity, for instance, or the nature of some debts or some receivables. So the fact of having also the explanatory notes on the accounts will help us to prepare a more accurate assessment, and we will not apply the prudent approach that could let's say, a deteriorated result of the financial capacity assessment. So please provide the explanatory notes on the accounts always. The validity of the financial assessment is for now 18 months from the closing date, but there's no need to take an action from your side after the 18 months, because as I mentioned before, if the financial assessment of your organization needs to be updated, we will inform you via message. If you haven't received any additional messages from us requesting to provide a new set of financial statements, no need to do it directly. Then once we have collected these documents, we are going to see in the next slide how to upload them in the system. Then again, in our PIC account in the participant register, as I mentioned before, the financial capacity tab will display a red flag. And also we will see just underneath the 4 steps we have to follow in order to provide the financial documents. This is very important because if you have to provide documents for the financial capacity assessment, you must provide them always via the financial capacity tab. Please don't do it via the documents tab. So in the financial capacity tab, as we see, you will find the financial years that we have validated so far. And if the financial assessment of your organization needs to be updated, you will see the red flag, but also there in status data required. And the action to take is provide necessary financial information. So by clicking in this blue icon, provide necessary financial information, you will move to the next step that we'll see in the next slide, which is to include the closing date. Just that in case you are a new established entity without closed accounts yet, instead you have to select the box underneath, just to indicate that you don't have financial statements yet. Then once you have included the closing date, you move with next option to the next slide, which is the proper section from where we are going to upload the documents. And as you can see there are two actions that you should take. If the most updated version of the financial statements are already available, you will upload them via add new document that we see on the right side of the screen, On the contrary, if you are still under the audit assessment or still missing the approval of the accounts, you have to inform us by including the reasons. And please provide also the approximate date in which the accounts will be available. Like that, we will be able to inform the operational service for the timing. So this is very important. If you don't have the accounts yet, please inform us via this reasons option. And then the next step is just submit the information. So that's the steps to follow in order to properly provide the financial capacity assessment. And for us, it will be easier to trace and quicker to prepare. So that's all from my part. If you have questions, we'll see each other in a little while. Now I give the floor back to my colleague Elin. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Alberto. Now, on the next slide, we'll see an overview of the workflow of the Central Validation Service. After the validation starts, we send you a request for submission of documents, and of course there is the option if the entity first. Let's have a look at if the entity does not reply, what we do. We send you 3 reminders to submit the requested documents, and that's why, as I and Alberto mentioned already, it's the best place to submit the documents is under the specific section, so the system indicates that the document is well received. If after 3 reminders you do not reply or upload the documents, your entity will go into a sleeping status, and we will contact the operational unit who might approach you and to upload the requested documents or take other actions if necessary. In the second case, if we contact you and you reply or submit the requested documents, we firstly will have a look if these documents are enough for us to perform the legal validation or LEA appointment or financial capacity assessment. And if something is missing, again, we follow the same logic by sending you 3 reminders until we receive the requested documents. However, if the documents are all there, or if you have replied and submitted additional documents and we are able to complete our task, we go further by validating your entity, appointing the LEA, and performing the financial capacity assessment. Now we come back again to the same timeline, and I would like to draw your attention to its bottom part, which is the communication via participant register. This is very important for us because first of all, this is the only way how your message reaches the actual person working on the specific case, the case handler. You are going to receive the messages that we send to you with a notification to your email address. But to be able to reply to these messages, you need to log into the participant register and use the messaging function to reply to us. Again, this is very important, so you can directly discuss the missing document or any other clarification that is necessary with the person who is working on your case, and not go via the project officer or a help desk. These are also possible channels, but they will reach us much slower. And now I would like to clarify something for you, that sometimes there are cases where you lose access to your PIC account. So in this case, there are 2 possible actions that needs to be taken. In case you lose access to a PIC number that it's in a declared status, meaning that the PIC number it's not validated yet. For some reason, for example, the self-registrant who registered the PIC number some time ago might have left the organization, and there are no other authorized users that are appointed. In this case, you would need to register a new PIC number and inform the Central Validation Service. So we will merge these two PIC numbers and we will keep only the one that you have access to, so you are able to complete the validation process. In the second scenario, you might lose access to your valid PIC number. So in this case, you have a PIC number that it's already validated. There is an appointed LEAR, but for some reason, this LEAR it's not available anymore, and you cannot perform the action that we request from you. In this case, it's envisaged the so-called LEAR recovery procedure. It's again a step-by-step wizard that you need to follow to appoint a new LEAR and regain the access to your valid PIC number. As mentioned at the beginning, this is the last slide in our presentation, and we have provided you with hyperlinks to the to guidance documents that will answer probably most of your questions. However, if you still have if there is still something unclear, you can always contact the available help desk. But now you have the opportunity to ask your questions in the question and answer session.
Thank you very much, Elin. Thank you very much, Alberto. My name is Manuel Romaris. I'm training coordinator for Horizon 2020, and I will take over actually from Peter HAERTWICH now, and we'll guide you to the rest of the morning and with the questions also. We have several questions for you, Alberto and Elin. If we can see them on the screen, I think here they are coming. First question. We are have a problem here. 1 second. Actually, I have several windows open over this this presentation. We are a group company and have different structures and different legal representatives, but the Central Validation Service is asking that other company legal representative signature. Who can take this one?
Yes, maybe I can take this one. Thank you very much. So in case of group companies, sometimes it's like a little bit of a cascade of legal representative. So we would need, according to the documents submitted, we are going to establish which is the person who has the ultimate right to represent the company or the grouping. So that's why it's possible that we are asking of a legal representative of another company, because sometimes it's one company, it's actually the legal representative of another. So we would need a physical person to sign the documents. That's why it would be the legal representative of this other company who have to be the to sign the LEAR documents, which I imagine is the case in this question.
Thank you. We have 5 minutes more for questions. The next question is, we are in the process of replacing a LEAR and we're requested to submit minutes of the nomination. Is that a new procedure? This is not described in any document.
It's again a question that if I may answer. As I mentioned in the LEAR documents, the fourth type of document, which is for the empowerment of the legal representative, might be in one single document or in several documents. So in this case, we might have asked the minutes for the nomination in order to be sure that the person who the entity claims to be the legal representative is in fact appointed on this specific position, whether a president or a director. We would need to be sure that this person is it has been appointed on this position.
Thank you. The next question is a question that I moved myself from the previous room. Actually, it was misplaced. And by the way, actually, there were some late questions that we are going to answer after the next presentation. So this question says, delays due to peak validation. 1, partners find it challenging to assemble the necessary documents, and 2, no news from the EC validation service. Any advice?
Normally, on the first part, if you find it challenging to assemble the necessary documents, please use the messaging function to inform us. So we know that you are currently assembling the documents, but normally we send regular reminders. So if you receive these reminders, either reply or use the time to complete to gather the necessary information. If you haven't received news from us for some reason or another, again, please try to communicate with us. Send us a message to see what could be the reason, but most probably the reason is because your documents are under reviewing at the moment.
Thank you. The next question is from Rena Hohenstein. For public law bodies, the documents for establishment can vary. Is there a country-specific list available that the CVS has accepted in the past?
As mentioned in the question, it really varies from one country to another. If we have to assemble it, it's normally for public law bodies, it's some kind of legal act for the establishment. Could be a law or could be some decision. So these documents are normally could be accessed even online in some cases, but we would need to receive the official document. And yes, again, communicate with us if you have something that you think you're not sure whether it will be accepted or not. Please ask for it with the message, and we are going to reply to you. But also, when you upload the documents, we are going to review it and give you immediately feedback if something is missing.
Thank you. The next question. Are layers revalidated at a certain point, for instance, in each framework program, or once a layer is validated is forever, for instance, a layer nominated in FP7?
So in the past, there were different, the layers had a bit narrower mandate. So it's possible that if the layer has been validated a long time ago, they might not have the same rights as a currently validated layer. So we might need to, we might request from you reappointment of a layer, but this is really specific. Currently, we validate the layer with a mandate for the future, like a long time in the future.
Thank you. We have time for 1 or 2 more questions. How can a coordinator entity monitor the status of the ongoing validation for organizations under their consortium prior to the activation of the project?
They can either be in contact with the entities themselves, or they can contact the help desk and ask the help desk for if there is a problem with the validation. However, for data protection reasons, we cannot always provide too much details on what exactly it's happening. Normally, it's the entity itself that follows its validation.
And the last question, if an organization does not use a stamp, is it okay not to stamp documents when being prompted to, or do they have to get a stamp for this?
No, if there is no stamp of the entity, it's not a mandatory prerequisite that will void the documents as valid, but please do sign and indicate a date on it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Unless there is a specific case that we need a stamp on the documents, we are going to inform you in a message, and therefore, again, please use the messaging function to communicate with us.
Thank you very much. We have to stop here. We have the next presentation about the scientific technical description of the project, the description of action. For that, we have Isabel Vergara, who is a colleague from the Common Implementation Center. Actually, she is Deputy Head of Unit at the Common Implementation Center. Isabel, the floor is yours.
Yes, good morning. Thank you, Manuel. And yes, I will present the part of the description of the action, but first I need to share the slides. I hope it works well now.
Yes.
Okay. So yes, so I will take this part of the implementation date to give you more information about the actions that you have to do in order to give us details on how will be the description of the action. So if everything goes well, you will not have to do much here because all the information is already given in the proposal. However, we will ask you to do still some changes in order to encode some data that in the proposal were included in the narrative part in the PDF, and that now we ask you to include it in the structural data. So I will divide my presentation in an introduction to the grant agreement preparation. Most of the information has been already given to you by Petros. I will repeat here, so I will go quite fast on this part. Then I will give you the instructions that we are providing, that we are giving to you in order to prepare the description of the action. And then most of the slides in these presentations are screenshots of the IT tools that you will have to use to do the actions that we are asking you to do. So the introduction to the grant agreement preparation. So this is a slide that you have seen. Petros has shown you in the introduction this morning, but it includes a bit more detail. So for you to know, in Horizon Europe, we have a time to grant of 8 months that are divided into 2 parts. First is the evaluation. So, and from the goal deadline until the moment you receive the results of the evaluation, we plan a maximum of 5 months. And then we plan another 3 months maximum to sign the grant. So, and this is exactly the part that we are discussing today, the grant agreement preparation process. I have to give you some information here because I saw a question in the slide. This time to grant to 8 months applies to all Horizon Europe except the ERC. The projects in the ERC have a much longer time to grant that goes from 14 months in the starting grants to 16 months in the synergy and consolidator grants. The POC, the proof of concept, still have a shorter time to grant, which is about 7 months. Yeah. Petros already gave you some information. So we divide, we already start preparing the grant agreement preparation before we inform you. But we foreseen a maximum of 6 weeks in the grant agreement preparation from the moment we send the letter. And then in many cases, we will end the interactions with you. So we will end the work that you have to do. And then it will take, or you will think that it takes a long time for us to sign the grant agreement. The reason for this is that for many projects in Horizon Europe, we still have to do some internal management. So we need to present the information to the program committee members. So these program committee members are the member states of the European Union. And if the budget of the project is above a threshold, which is normally 2.5 million euros, then we need to ask for an approval. And this is what we call comitology, and this takes time to prepare. So we really need to prepare all the information that we send to the member states, and they normally meet together and decide on the project. So this is the reason we need a bit more time to sign the grant. So, and then, so for the interaction with you, with the participants, so this is what we more or less planned in the grant agreement preparation process. So once you receive the invitation to start the grant agreement preparation, then normally you will take about, we think, about 3 weeks to prepare the data in the tool. You may take much shorter than this. So as soon as you finish, you can submit to the European Commission your data, and then we plan for us about 1 week to revise the data that you have prepared. If everything goes well and if everything was done perfectly, then we may not have another communication with you, and then we just said, okay, we are ready to sign the grant. However, we may need some time for the comitology aspects. But if we are not 100% happy with the data that you have prepared, you may contact you again with the issues that we consider we need to change, and offer you another 2 weeks for your reaction. So once we finished, the result of this interaction with you will be the automatic generation of the grant agreement. So the grant agreement consists in a different number of documents, which are most of them produced automatically by the IT tool with the information that you encode there in our IT tool. So the IT tool will generate automatically the data sheet and the core grant agreement, so the whole document of the grant agreement with the legal aspects. Then the Annex 1, which is the description of the action, it consists of 2 parts. One will be automatically generated. The other one will be a PDF that you upload to the system. And then the Annex 2 with the estimated budget and other annexes. For instance, an important annex is the Annex 5 with the specific rules for Horizon Europe. These are generated automatically. So the rest of the presentation will focus on how to prepare this Annex 1, so the description of the action, which is based on the information that you included in the proposal and that was successfully evaluated. So let's go in more details with the description of the action. So as I already mentioned, the description of the action mirrors more or less exactly the proposal, and it also consists of 2 parts, what we call the Part A and the Part B. The Part B is a document that is generated automatically by our IT tool with the information that you typed in the IT system. And the Part B is a narrative description of the work that you plan to carry out in the project and that you must upload as a PDF. This is exactly the same as you do in the proposal. However, we are asking you to include some changes because information that in the proposal was in the Part B, we are asking you now to move it to the Part A, so to facilitate the management of the project. Once you are invited to start the grant agreement preparation, you will also be able, what we call the description of the action template. It's not exactly a template. It includes a list of instructions that you need to follow in order to prepare the description of the action, the Annex 1 to the grant agreement. So let's go with all these instructions and the information that is included in every part of the description of the action. So in Part A, so the document that is, I repeat, it will be generated automatically, will include a cover page. You don't have to produce it. A table of contents, also automatically generated. A project summary that is based on proposal abstract. So if you are not changing anything, you will not have to do anything. However, if you want to update some information in this project summary, you can do so during the grant agreement preparation, of course, in agreement with the project officer. Importantly, the information in the project summary will be published. So all the information that you include here in the project summary, it has to be public information. You cannot include here details that you don't wish to make public. Then it will also include a list of participants, which is automated. It's based on proposal information. So if for whatever reason you are changing participants during the grant agreement preparation, of course, you need to discuss this with the project officer, but then you can do so in the tool, and then the document will be updated automatically. And then we come with a list of sections in which we are asking you to do some work. So the list of work packages, of course, the information is already included in the proposal, but is included in the narrative part in the PDF. What we are asking you is to copy paste all the information into our IT tool. The same for the work package description, the staff effort, the list of deliverables, the list of milestones, and the list of critical risks. So this is the work that we are asking you to do during the grant agreement preparation. And then for the part B, because we are asking you to move some information to the part A, we are also asking you to remove this information from the part B. So what we call the template of the description of the action include these instructions that you have to follow. So of course, the starting point is the part B of your proposal. You have to use the version submitted for the evaluation. We are asking you to remove the cover page of the proposal, to delete the header and replace it and replace the footer with the following information. Now we have the proposal number, proposal acronym, and then the number of the page number. We are asking you to remove the list of participants because now it's included in Part B, and we are asking also to remove all the tables that are now part of the Part A. So the list of work packages, work package description, list of deliverables, milestones, critical risks, staff effort, etc., etc. You have to keep, however, the tables 3.1G, H, I, and J with some information about the budget, because this information is not encoded in the Part A or in the IT tool. Then we are asking also to create a section 4 in the document with the ethics self-assessment that you had in proposal Part A, if any. So if you have this section in proposal Part A, we are asking you to copy the information here in the description of the action Part B. And then this is also very important, is add a table with the history of changes, explaining if you have made some changes in comparison with your proposal, and with the remark, as you know, that all the changes must be agreed with the project officer. And finally, we are asking you to add a table of contents with page number. As you know, the baseline is the proposal. You are not supposed to do changes, but if you do changes, please discuss with the project officer. And of course, substantial changes to the proposal are not allowed. So other points that you need to pay attention during the grant agreement preparation is the ethics review and the security scrutiny. So all proposals in Horizon Europe, in particular, all proposals that will be invited to grant agreement preparation, will also be subject to an ethics review and a security review once the technical evaluation of the proposal is finished. These ethics and security reviews may end up with some requirements that you need to fulfill during the grant agreement. These ethics requirements are binding, and this might be one reason for which you have to change the proposal Part B. So, of course, if there are ethics requirements, you will need to adapt your activities to fulfill these ethics requirements. You also need to be careful because there might be ethics requirements that need to be met before the grant can be signed. So the project officer will inform you whether this is the case, and if this is the case, until this requirement is not fulfilled, you will not be able to sign the grant. And similarly for security scrutiny. And one final point, so we are asking you to move all the information from the proposal part B to the description of the action part A, because we don't want to repeat information in different parts of the proposal. So we have some cases in which when an amendment is going, if the information was repeated in two places in the description of the action, one place was updated, the other not, and legally this creates a lot of confusion. All the information, of course, should appear in one findable place only in the proposal, in the description of the action, sorry. So these are the information that I wanted to give you. What I will go now, what I will do now is to go through all the screenshots of the IT tools that you have to use. So as Petros explained this morning, so in order to access your projects, so once you are invited to the grant agreement preparation, your proposal will appear under My Projects. And then you will have here a list of projects in which you are participating. If this is the case, if this is the only project in which you are participating, it will be the only one. And then you have under each project the menu actions. If you click under actions, you will have here a menu of possible actions that you can perform. And in order to enter into the grant agreement preparation tool, you have to click into Manage Project. So before going into the screens for the management of the projects, I also would like to mention that in the participant portal, you will receive notifications of actions that you are asked to perform, but we are also sending to you important announcements, which are here in this warning icon. So, for instance, we lately sent an announcement about the next association of the United Kingdom to Horizon Europe from January 2024. So this is important information, and I hope you are receiving these notifications well. So going back to the management of your project, so once you click into manage projects, you will enter into another IT system. This IT system, we call it PPGMS, Participant Portal Grant Management System. And here you will have a list of workflows in which you need to perform some actions in which your project is active. So before the signature of the grant, there is, of course, only one workflow, which is the grant agreement preparation. And here you will have the possibility to enter into the preparation of the data by clicking here in the first line of the screen, or to sign your declaration of owner. So this is something that all participants need to do before the grant agreement is signed, and the declaration of owner must be signed electronically via this PPGMS, Participant Portal Grant Management System. And then here, every participant will have here the action to sign, as you see here, the possibility to sign the declaration of owner. So you just need to read what you are signing, and if you agree, sign the document. If you don't agree, I don't think there is another possibility than not signing the grant agreement. If you have affiliated entities, you will also have to send to us the declaration of honor of these affiliated entities, but the affiliated entities cannot sign the declaration of honor electronically. So if you have affiliated entities, as you can see in this screenshot, you will also have here a line for the declaration of honor of each of the affiliated entities linked to your entity. You will be able to download a template, ask the affiliated entity to sign on paper, and then upload into the participant portal the scanned and signed declaration of honor of the affiliated entity. So once you have this declaration of honor done, you may enter into the grant agreement preparation data. So, and here again, we have another IT tool that we call Sigma, which is the tool that you will use for managing your project. And here in this tool, you have a number of screens. You have to check them all, check that all the data included in every screen is correct, and then in many cases validate the data. So as Petros explained this morning, you have the legend of icons that we use. So if it is a green check icon, then is meaning that everything is okay. We don't need to do anything else. If there is a red cross, is meaning that there is some missing information in this section of the grant agreement, and that without this information you will not be able to continue with the process. The I is just for information purposes, and then the warning is that we are still missing information in this section, but it's not blocking at this point, but it will become blocking in the future. So let's go through the most important sections. So the first one is the project summary. All the information that will appear here is taken from the proposal. What you have to do is to check that everything is correct. If you see things that are not correct, you will need to contact the project officer. You will not be able to act or correct the data in this screen. Here you have information about who will be the responsible unit in an executive agency that will deal with your project. What is the goal, the topic, the type of action, the duration of the project, and also the detail of the budget and the names of the officers that will deal with your grant, and the proposed deadlines for next interactions with the Commission. So if you click into the next screen about beneficiaries, here the screen will be populated automatically with the list of participants from the proposal. And then you also have the possibility to change the coordinator or to add or remove participants. Of course, this is a serious change. If you are doing these changes, please check with the project officer, probably before you submit the data. So for every of these participants, you can click into the line, and then you will enter into additional screens in which we will present all the information that we have about this participant in our participant register. So here in the screen, you will have in blue, this first box with information of the project. The next box is the information of the beneficiary. And if you click here in this little arrow, you will be able to change from beneficiary to beneficiary without going back to the Sigma screen. So you have clicked into one beneficiary. Here we have a summary of all the information that we have in the database. You will not be able to change anything unless you change it directly into the participant register. And then we only need you to add information about the department in your entity that will work in this project. This is information that is not included in the participant register. And then you will see also in this screen whether you have declared a gender equality plan in the participant register. So the information that will appear here is coming from the participant register, because in the proposal, you will also have to declare whether you have the gender equality plan, but in the proposal, the information for the time being is not taken automatically from our participant register. But here it is, so you will not have to do anything in this screen. If you want to change the values, you have to do it directly into the participant register. We also have the financial information for every partner. So based on the information submitted in the proposal, you can change it. But of course, again, changes must be discussed with the project officer. And you will also have here information about the project representatives that you have nominated through the management section, roles management section in the participant portal. So this is only information. And then if you have affiliated entities, you will also have here a screen in which we list all affiliated entities that are linked to your organization. And then if you click in every of these affiliated entities, we enter into another screen in which we have the partner summary, all the legal data that we have in our participant register, and also the financial information for this affiliated entity. So as you see here, again, first box, a proposal, second box, the beneficiary, and third box is the affiliated entity. So if you have more than one, then you will be able to move from one affiliated entity to the other by clicking this little arrow. And then, and only for the coordinator, there will be a screen in which the project coordinator will have to give us information about the bank account. Of course, this bank account needs to be validated. If you have already one account validated, the information will appear automatically here. If you have more than one bank account validated, then you will be able to select which one you want to use in this screen. And then, not in the tab of the beneficiaries, but as a separate tab, we also have information about the associated partners that participate in the project. The data that will appear in this screen is pre-filled with the information from the proposal, but you are able to add or remove associated partners here. Of course, if you are doing so, you need to check with the project officer. So as a reminder, the associated partners do not sign the grant agreement and cannot declare costs, but can be very active in the project. They can be work package leaders, and the budget that will dedicate to the project, of course, they are not funded via the project, but they should have another source of funding. The information of this budget is included in the proposal. It will not be included anymore in the description, in the grant agreement, in the description of the action. And then I will come later. So for the researchers, because we are also asking you to identify the researchers, you can also add the researchers for the associated partners, but this must be entered by the call coordinator, because associated partners do not have rights to work in our tools. So if you click into one associated partners, then we will have here all the information that we have. They don't have to be validated, but we are asking some information in the proposal for these associated partners. And then associated partners can be linked either to the whole consortium or to one beneficiary. In the proposal, you cannot choose between these two. We assume that the associated partners are linked to the consortium as a whole, but here is where you can tell us whether this is not the case. and you prefer these associated partners to be linked only to one beneficiary. And then in this screen, you can select which beneficiary. If you do so, then this information will appear in the Article 9.1 in the grant agreement. So the researchers I already mentioned, this is something new in Horizon Europe. We are asking you to tell us the identity of the researchers that will work in the project. We have a new tab in the description, in the grant agreement preparation, and here the tab of researchers will be pre-filled with the information in the proposal, but you are able to add new names here. You can also remove names here, but of course, this needs to be agreed with the project officer. So please be very careful with this, because we want to avoid situations that we know that happened in the past, in which, for instance, in the proposal, very knowledgeable researchers, well-known researchers were included in the proposal. The proposal was evaluated very good according to the expertise of these researchers, but then later on these researchers participated very little in the project. So we really want to avoid these situations, and this is one of the reasons that we are asking you to identify the researchers here. So if you want to add more researchers, we offer you two options. You need to complete manually all the fields that we are asking, or we are asking you to encode the email and retrieve automatically all the public information that we have in the person profile in the participant portal. So as I mentioned, the coordinator is able also to include researchers for the associated partners, and for affiliated entities is the beneficiary that is linked to the affiliated entity in charge of including the researchers for these entities. And then we enter into the work packages, information, deliverables, milestone, etc. So the screens initially will be empty here. So we are not able to pre-fill the information with the information in the proposal, and here is the bulk of the work that we are asking you to do. So you have to add all the information that was included before in the proposal part B to copy here in the screen. So you will be able to add work packages, and then you should not worry about the order in which you enter the work packages, because you will be able to change the order by dragging and dropping the work packages, and the number will also change automatically. For the deliverables, it's exactly the same. The screen will be empty, so we are asking you to include all deliverables that were included in the proposal, but please pay a lot of attention to the dissemination level of the deliverables, because if it is flagged as public, once the deliverable is submitted and approved by the project officer, we will publish it automatically in Cordis. So please pay a lot of attention into the dissemination status of the deliverables. The same for milestones. It's just we are asking you to include the information that you had in the proposal now in this screen. And exactly the same for critical risk. Yes, and that is all. I am almost finished with my presentation. I only want to give you some information about the ethics screen. So in this screen, ethics information, we will show to you all the information that resulted after the ethics review is finished. So if you don't see a green check in this screen, is because probably the ethics review is still ongoing for your proposal, and we are still not able to present final information in this screen. But once this ethics review is finished, you will see here a green check, and then you will also have here the areas in which your proposal have ethics issues, and also the list of ethics requirements. if the ethics review resulted in ethics requirements. If some of these requirements are due before the grant is signed, then until we don't check that this is the case, still the ethics info in this screen will be with a warning symbol, not a green check. Another important information is that if the ethics requirement is due after the grant agreement signature, then we will create automatically deliverables for these requirements. So you don't have to do anything. But in the list of deliverables, maybe when you enter for the first time the screen on deliverables, you already see there some deliverables. It's because we have created automatically the deliverables linked to the ethics requirements that are linked, that are due after the grant agreement signature. And more or less the same for security. For security aspects, so we also may have requirements that are due after the grant agreement signature. If this is the case, we will create automatically deliverables. And here in this screen, which is for information only, you are not able to act or change any data here. We have a summary of all the issues that were discussed during the security review. And finally, so once you finish with all the encoding of the data in the different screens, you also have to upload the part B, in which you have removed all the information that you included in the screens. And then you can do it in the screen documents. And then you will be able to, with this icon action, you will be able to upload the document as in a PDF. So this is all what I wanted to say. So here you have a list of information sessions of webinars that we have organized and that we have recorded and offered the recorded link or video in the portal. So just to let you know that last week we organized for the first time the implementation day on the pre-award aspects of the grant management, so the evaluation, all the aspects, and that happened before the invitation to the grant agreement preparation. And next week we will organize another implementation day on the management of the project. So in particular, how to deal with amendments and reporting. So nothing else from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Isabel. We have several questions, and also we are going to take later on, after your questions, the ones from Petros, actually, from the first presentation, if you don't mind, Isabel. So for you, Isabel, if we can see the questions, here they are. Thank you, Olivier. Olivier is taking care of that. Maybe it's Dominica. We have two people actually from the technical side, Olivier and Dominica, taking care of all these technicalities. Thank you very much. So first question, is table 3.1G, 3.1H on financial information also kept for lump sum agreements?
I think so, but I need to check twice this. So probably we will come back to the correct answer after the info day. Yeah, but so, I think so. Yeah.
In any case, just since we are talking about lump sum, just to remind everybody that on the 19th, this Thursday, we have a webinar on lump sum. It's called Lump Sum Funding in Horizon Europe. How does it work? How to write a proposal. It's announced on the events page of the Funding and Tenders portal, so everybody is welcome to attend, of course. And I'm sure they will answer this question there. So next question, do you reflect instructed changes in the table with history of changes? For instance, we removed work packages.
No, this is not needed. Yeah, so we know that you had to do it, so there is no need to highlight these changes in the history of changes. However, if you do some changes in the actions that you propose in every work packages, these are the changes that we are asking you to include, yeah, in this history of changes. Yeah.
Thank you. Next question. If we were asked to clarify some issues identified in the evaluation summary report, for instance, excellence impact, To what extent can we make changes in the proposal?
Yes, Petros explained this no negotiation approach. So we take the proposal as submitted, and we are not going to oblige you to change your proposal. However, it will be your initiative, if you have this type of comments in the evaluation summary report, to address them, and then you need to consult and discuss with the project officer. But the obligation is not coming from us. So it is, of course, a good initiative. If you have these comments in the ESR that maybe you can improve the proposal by making some changes, that you address those changes during the grant agreement preparation.
Next question, researcher tab. Is it later checked during the implementation phase? Is it necessary to explain the differences? It was not in Horizon 2020.
No, indeed, in Horizon 2020, we didn't ask this information. This is new in Horizon Europe. And the main purpose of this researchers table is to be able to evaluate the program as a whole. So one of the indicators to evaluate the program is how the Horizon Europe program influenced the career of researchers. And in order to be able to answer to this indicator, we need to know who are the researchers that were benefiting from the project. So this is one of the reasons we are asking this information now. But once we have this information, we of course will follow up. Yeah. So this I explained during my presentation that we had in the past situations in which researchers were announced in proposals, but later on not very active in the project. So during the activity of the project, of course, we will follow up whether it is true that researchers indicated in the researchers table are really active in the project.
Next question, associated partners, to consortia or to partner? What are the differences? What impact does it have on the implementation and reporting?
On implementation and reporting, no differences. I think the difference might be from the legal concerns, and the next presentation on legal aspects may clarify this. But on implementation, there are no implications. Yeah.
Thank you. Next question. Is the researcher tab also relevant for lump sum projects? Is it later checked in the implementation phase?
Yes, it is also asked in lump sum projects, and the answer to the second question is the same as before. Yes, it might be checked during the implementation phase, yes.
If the final ethical approvals, for instance, for animal work, are not received during the 3 months gap, is the signing simply put on hold while waiting for approval?
I could say the answer is yes, but this is one of the things that has to be analyzed case by case and discussed carefully with the project officer. But of course, if there are reasons why we cannot sign the grant agreement in the time frame of the 3 months, of course we can always extend this period. Yes, but case by case and always discussing carefully with the project officer. Yeah.
I have a question now about the researchers tab. When submitting the proposal, it is normal that researchers hired to work on the project are not identified yet. Only name of supervisor can be given.
Yeah, this is perfectly normal. This is okay. The identity of the researchers is not something that we take into account during the evaluation of the proposal, and we are aware that if you still are not sure to receive funds, you cannot hire researchers, and that if you receive the funds, you will do so. So during the grant agreement preparation, you can update the list by adding the name of the researchers that you are planned to hire.
Thank you. Should researchers who will work on the project but who will not be funded by the project also be listed?
Yes, so please list all the researchers that will work for the project, yes.
We have now 2 questions from Anne. What if an entity is at the same time a REC and also a private company? to which declaration where in the approval will refer to the demand a gender equality plan?
Yes, the gender equality plan applies, is an eligibility criterion that applies to public entities and research organizations, to both, whether they are public or private. So if you are a research organization, you need to have a gender equality plan in your organization. Yes, this is an eligibility criterion.
And the second question from Anne, does the AP needs to have a peak, and will this go through a validation process?
Yes, associated partners need to have a peak, but they will not be validated. Yeah.
Okay, next question. If in the researchers tab for the staff exchanges call, does it mean that only registered researchers can be seconded?
No, for the staff exchange in Maria Sklodowska-Curie actions, you will be able to, so the researchers tab will not appear as I showed you in the screen. So we will only use the information on the researchers that you will be used for secondment. So for Maria Sklodowska-Curie actions, the tabs are a bit different. Yeah.
Another question about lump sum projects. Can associated partners be work package leaders in lump sum projects?
Yes, in the same way as in actual cost projects, yes.
In the PDF version of the description of action, do we need to remove all tags found in the proposal template that were in the proposal?
No, please. I know that this is something that is done very manually. It's not our intention. We want to improve, but please do not remove the tags. So the tags that we ask you to include or not to delete the tags in the template, because later on we have some IT tools to detect similarity, plagiarism, double fundings, and these tags are used by the IT tools that we use to detect similarities between documents. So please do not remove them.
Thank you. Question about the process. Is it like this? Each partner first sign the declaration of honor, then there is a preparation of grant agreement, and when finished, you have to upload it in Sigma under documents.
Yes, but you can do all these three actions in parallel. So you can start with the grant agreement data as soon as you are invited, and then just sign the declaration of honor later on. Of course, it has to be signed before the grant agreement is signed, but you can do all these three tasks in parallel.
I think that's the last question is from Vedran, and it actually goes to the previous presentation. Maybe you want to give it a try. If the PIC number is blocked work twice, in that case, can we get a new PIC number so that we can participate in other contests, in other calls?
I think that was a question for the previous, or maybe Petros can answer. I don't know the answer here. Yeah.
Well, I think there is indeed it's for the previous presentation, but I'm not sure if there is a misunderstanding because the use of the word blocked for a PIC is blocked by REA validation services only if it is bankrupt or in liquidation. Now, if you mean blocked, you cannot access there is another also case if the organization does not have a legal personality. For example, in case there is a faculty in a university, usually they block and they link to what we call the master PIC. So you will have to use the organization PIC. Now, if you refer blocked, you cannot access it. I think it was explained before. There is a way either if there is a layer to recover the account by a specific link accessible through the portal, or if it was just never validated, you will have to create a new PIC. But now it says they are worked twice. I don't know what exactly it meant, but I think, yeah, if it is blocked by the REA validation services, there was a reason behind. So I mean, otherwise you can just create a new account to do. If you mean blocked, you cannot access it.
Thank you, Petros. I see that Petros is ready to answer his questions, but now we still have a few ones for Isabel. Should project managers also be listed as researchers, even if they are not technically researchers?
No, in this table, we really only want to know about researchers, and in the proposal, in the template of the proposal, we include also the definition of what consider a researcher. So if people that work only of managerial aspects of the management of the grant, no, they should not be included there. Yeah.
We have
so only researchers. Yeah.
Sorry, we have two last questions. We are going through them before going to the questions for Petros. Clarification from Anne. My question was, if an organization is REC and private company, when will they be requested at JEP, assuming they can declare both statuses in the portal?
Yes, you can declare both statuses in the portal, and yes, you will be asked to have a gender equality plan. Yeah.
Maybe just a clarification. The research organization status is a self-declared one. So in that case, you have to be careful if it applies. I mean, the definition mostly is if the purpose of having the organization is mostly focused on research. In that case, you will need to be having, if you are sure and you check it, the problem, of course, is that it is not validated, so the REA validation people would not check, so it is your responsibility. But if you decide based on your, let's say, what you see in the definition that you are indeed a research organization, in that case, prior to signing the grant agreement, you will need to have one. But it is, as we said, it's a self-declared status, so it's your responsibility to understand if you are a research organization or not.
Thank you both.
It's possible that you are not, if it is a private for-profit company, because normally it should be non-profit with a focus on research. But again, it is the responsibility of you. You would not be validated as a research organization.
Last question for Isabel. Is there if there are minor corrections, for instance, deliverable leader is mentioned differently at the proposal, can we change it during GAP?
Yes, you can change all these details during GAP, but again, all changes must be discussed with the project officer. Yes, but you can change the leader of the deliverables, work packages, these details can be changed. Yes.
Okay. So, Olivier, we can see now exactly the questions for Petros. And in the meantime, I see that the next speaker, Selene, is not there. If somebody could call her, please. Okay, Petros, first question. Start day of project implementation. What is the latest time the project has to start from the signing of the grant agreement?
Well, the start day of the grant agreement normally is the first day of the month following the signature of the grant. There is a possibility to postpone it to a later date in case it is necessary. But please bear in mind that this will affect also later the payment. So you have to do it. I don't know if there is a specific reason to request this and what kind of timing you have in your mind. What is the reason behind? But it can also be retroactive in specific cases, again with some consequences and with risking some activities might not be reimbursable. The regular let's say time frame set by the tool is the first day of the month following up. But if you need some extension, you can discuss with the project officer.
Thank you. Next question about an ERC exception for GAP time-bound process. Time to grant 8 months is not applicable here. What is the time to grant for ERC? Can you explain in more details?
I think it was answered by Isabel. So it can be up to 16 months in total because the process of selecting the projects is different. It includes also interviews and I mean, it's a little separate with the panels. So they do not apply this rule, I mean, of 8 months in total. So, but you will always be informed. I mean, there is a process. You will be in contact, so you will always know when is the next phase of the evaluation.
Thank you, Petros. Can a project officer require to see the consortium agreement?
Look, in strict terms, the Commission does not request to see the consortium agreement. You need to sign one, and it is strongly suggested you do that before the signature of the grant. It will be also based on what is written in the data timesheet if it is required to sign one. We do not require to see it, and the Commission, of course, is not. Of course, the clauses in the consortium agreements do not contradict any of the terms in the grant agreement. But normally, no, we don't see it. Of course, it is best that it is there, and I don't know if you have been requested to provide it, maybe just to show that it is there or to explicit, but the Commission normally is not requiring to see the consortium grant agreement.
Thank you. Can proposals be institutions that do not exist yet? For instance, institutions that are yet to be established in the gap phase.
You mean in the proposal that you have an organization, you need always to register as organization in order to have a PIC. I don't, I mean, I think if there is an act of establishment for a university, if you mean that will be completed until the gap, I think, yes, it is okay. Because as long as you have a legal personality and there will be somebody appointed later to perform, let's say, the necessary steps for the validation, yes, it is doable.
Thank you. Should the consortium agreement be signed before the gap can be signed?
Yes, this is suggested to do it before, because anyway, you understand that, of course, we said with exclamation that we not go into it, we do not require or we do not need to upload it. But having the signature of, having the consortium agreement before the signature of the grant agreement ensures also the consortium itself, all the beneficiaries, because it can cover also things concerning exploitation or other important things that are difficult to be set up during the course of the project. Of course, it is also concerning the way the payments will be managed. There are a number of rules. If you see in the model in the AGA, so the model grant agreement has also an annotated grant agreement with explanations, and there you can find also links on what you need to include in the consortium agreement. So all these are very important also for your own benefit, for the better functioning of the consortium and the arrangements later while the project is ongoing.
Thank you, Petros. Last question for you. If the layer changed during the project, it is applicable for all the projects, and what you be changed?
Well, if the layer changes, indeed, if there are a number of projects managed by that organization, the change is global. So it appears at the level of organization. But this does not change anything to the management of the project. So because, you know, I mean, I suppose other roles can be, of course, reassigned with a new layer, but it doesn't have any other impact. So the layer is just a person on the side of the organization that is responsible to perform all the activities when necessary concerning the management of projects or appointment of roles. So there is no other change.
Thank you, Petros, for staying until now. We still have a few minutes, and I see that we have new questions for Isabel. If you don't mind, Isabel, we can go through them if Olivia can put them. The first one is, how can we change the REC status? Can be just self-declared by the layer?
The research organization status, I think Petros already answered. Yes, you go to the participant register and you can unflag this.
Yes, it is in the legal data tab. So there are a number of statuses like public, private entity, research organization. So you can put it to the appropriate. I mean, normally you shouldn't change this, if I may say this. You shouldn't change this based on if you are required to do a gender equality plan or not. I mean, if the organization is a research organization, you need to have it and have the gender equality plan. The fact that we don't validate doesn't mean that you can switch on and off.
Should we declare all person months working on the project, even those not funded?
Yes, you should declare all person months that you need to carry out the activities in each work package. And then, of course, you assigned person months to every of the participants of this work package. If some of them are associated partners, we understand that they will not receive funding. Yeah.
Thank you. We still have time for one or two questions. The completion and signature of the consortium agreement before the grant agreement, that was already answered. And why does a project officer ask to see the signed consortium agreement? It was also asked, answered. So we go to the last one from Kate. The start of the project is the first day of the following month after signing the grant agreement. Which signature date is considered here? Main coordinator or partners?
No, the grant agreement is only signed by the coordinator, project coordinator, and us, the European Commission or executive agency. The rest of the partners accede to this grant agreement. So we take into account the last signature, which, if I am not mistaken, is us, or is the coordinator. I don't remember. But anyway, from the moment that both parties have signed
the project officer. So yeah, I mean the consortium coordinator signs, and then the project officer. So indeed, as Isabel said, the others only accede to the grant agreement.
But the starting day is one of the things that you need to discuss with the project officer during the grant agreement preparation. So if you really prefer to start in 3 months' time after the grant agreement signature, I think this is perfectly possible, but you need to discuss this with the project officer. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Isabel. Thank you, Petros, for waiting until now. And now we go to the last presentation of today, legal and financial aspects, avoiding common errors. We have here Selene GONZALEZ DIAZ. Selene is a lawyer from the Common Implementation Center. And Selene, I see that you are present there. If you can take the floor, please, and show your presentation. You are muted. And now?
Do you hear me now?
Yes, perfect now. Thank you.
I will share my presentation. Please confirm if you can see it.
Yes, still not full screen mode.
Uh-huh.
And here we go. Thank you.
Okay. Close. Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this session. My name is Selene, and today I will give you a presentation on the legal and financial aspects of the Horizon Europe Model Grant Agreement. This is an overview of my presentation. So this morning, we have been talking about the grant agreement preparation phase, and now we have arrived to the last step of your GAP phase, which is the signature of the grant agreement. And I would like to talk about the model grant agreement, its structure, and also its purpose. And also, I would like to explain 2 of the main pillars of our grants, which are the type of participants and the type of costs, with a focus on the personnel cost. And I would like to give you a couple of tips on how to avoid common errors. And hopefully we'll have some time for a Q&A session before the lunch break. So let's start with the model grant agreement. Okay, what's the model grant agreement and why do you need it? Well, it's the contractual document that you will sign with the granting authority, with us, the Commission, or an executive agency, and it will define your rights and your obligations in the action. So among the rights that you will find in your grant agreement is, of course, the right to receive EU funding under the terms and conditions that you will sign. For instance, to also own the results of the project that you have been working on, or to ask for amendments if something needs to be changed. But you will also find your obligations to implement the project as planned in the description of the action, to submit the reports, and also other type of obligations like visibility, obligations to display the EU emblem, for instance. Importantly, you would also find in your grant agreement how much money you can get. So that is the maximum grant amount. A couple of words in the structure of the grant agreement and a few novelties that we have for Horizon Europe. So it would be a fully electronic grant, and all the communications and all the actions will flow via the funding and tenders portal that I guess you're very familiar with it by now. Another novelty that we have in Horizon Europe is that the grant agreement is based on a corporate structure. This means that we have now a commission-wide template. It's a model that will be used across all the funding programs that I directly manage by the Commission. And this is really a simplification measure, and it will help you to understand better the provisions and to have like a uniform and a consistent interpretation of the rules. So even if you are applying to other grants, you will see that you will have the same corporate template. And another important novelty is that we have a so-called specific Annex 5. So this is an area of your grant agreement where you will find the Horizon Europe specific rights and obligations. So this normally come from policy requirements that are stemming for our program. And you will find some security rules, ethics, values, such as having a gender equality plan. Of course, you will have intellectual property rights obligations, some communication and dissemination, but also open science that is very linked to our grants, and some specific rules to carrying out the action. This is a very important piece of advice that I will give you at this stage to really avoid errors. So the best way to avoid any errors for the declaration of your and the management of your grant agreement is to check the guidance. You can already get familiar with the Horizon Europe Model Grant Agreement. You will find it in the Funders and Tenders portal under the Reference Documents tab. And also there is another very important piece of guidance, and I think there are a few newcomers in the audience. So if you are not familiar yet with the Annotated Grant Agreement, the AGA, I really advise you to go to the portal and to open it and have a look before the implementation of your grant, so you will get familiar with the provisions. And really, this AGA, it's a guidance document that explains every article of your grant agreement. So it's a very useful piece of information, and it's the best tool that will help you to avoid any errors towards the grant agreement. More on the structure of the MGA, you will see that one of the novelties that we have, and when compared with Horizon 2020, is that we have the so-called data sheet. This is a summary of the specific data of your grant agreement. So it's a part that you will find at the beginning of your grant, and it really have all the really key important information for us, like the name of the participants, the grant amount, also your reporting and payments modality, etc. So it's a very good summary that you will find in the grant. Then we have the core part, which are the articles of your grant agreement. And we'll have a number of annexes. Annex 5, I already explained before. This is really an area for customization that we have in Horizon Europe, where we will have the specific rules for our action. You can see in the slides some examples. So this is really the most important parts of the structure of the MGA. And now that we are familiar with the Horizon Europe grant agreement, let's start to talk about the participants in the actions, which is a very important information that you really will help you to avoid errors in the future in your grant. So here it's an overview of the type of participants. I will not spend a lot of time here because I will explain every role in detail. But the main message that I want to pass to you here is that really choose the appropriate role for the participants in your consortium. This will be key to the successful implementation of your action, and it will allow you to avoid many errors afterwards during implementation. So normally every participant has only one single role in the action, and must have the resources to implement the task, but certain combinations of roles are allowed, but really be careful about having one participant with different roles, because this can be a sort of a source of errors. And there are specific cases in the AGA of the combinations of roles that are allowed in Horizon Europe. And now let's dig in on the type of participants that you will have in your grant agreement. We will start with the most important, the key partners, which are the beneficiaries. You'll find them in Article 7 of the MGA, and they are signatories of the grant agreement. They sign through an accession form, and they are fully responsible for the technical implementation of the grant, and they are responsible towards the granting authority to implement the action and to comply with all the obligations. So they have to have the appropriate resources to implement their task, and also they have to remain eligible for the entire duration of the action. And here on the slides, you will see some of the obligations that are attached to beneficiaries, like submitting to the coordinators the financial statements, the technical reports, or informing the granting authority of any events that can affect the action. And among the beneficiaries, you will have the coordinator, which is the central contact point for the granting authority. It's the entity that directly signed the grant agreement with us, and it would represent the consortium towards the commission. So one of the main obligations that they have, the coordinators, is to monitor that the action is implemented properly, but also it will act as intermediary for all the communications, like passing out the documents, the reports, etc. to us. And importantly, they have to distribute the payments received from the granting authority to the other beneficiaries and without unjustified delay. So beneficiaries and coordinators, key partners in your grant. Then we have another important part of the consortium, which are the affiliated entities. You will find them in Article 8 of the MGA. For those familiar with Horizon 2020, it's the same concept as we have before as linked third parties. So we have inherited this from H2020. And the most important feature is that they must have a legal or a capital link with the beneficiary. And this link cannot be limited to the action only, and cannot be established only for the purpose of implementation of the action. What does it mean? It means that it really has to be a permanent link, a contractual cooperation, or a link that made them beneficiary and the affiliated entity really have a more consolidated relationship. So it is not valid that, for instance, some entity said, okay, we have signed a contract for collaboration, a punctual collaboration for this action, and then it will finish once the action is over. No, we want that the capital or the legal link will predate the start of the action, and it will last. So this can be also a source of errors sometimes that we see. Be careful with that. Very important, the affiliated entities do work in the action, and they can also declare costs. De facto, we will treat them like beneficiaries because they will have their own financial statements, they have the CFZ, etc., and also they have to fulfill the same conditions for participation and funding as beneficiaries. This means that they have to be eligible for funding as well. Now we continue with other participants. We're going to enter now in the third parties of the grant agreement. And here we're going to talk about associated partners. You will find them in Article 9.1 of the grant agreement. It is the former international partner status in H2020. And here the key features are that associated partners do work in the action, but they cannot declare costs. So they participate at their own expense. Their costs are not eligible. I think it was explained before by my colleague Isabel that they have to be linked to one beneficiary or to the consortium. And since they don't declare costs, they don't have to comply with eligibility conditions for funding. And here, for those coming from H2020, maybe bear in mind that the beneficiary requesting zero funding status has been discontinued in Horizon Europe. So here, in order to avoid any errors as well, please bear in mind that any entity that had been a beneficiary requesting zero funding before now has to be converted or get the role of associated partner. And also, the beneficiaries must ensure that the MGA obligations are passed to the associated partners, okay? So this you will probably regulate in your consortium agreement. Okay, let's continue with the third parties. In your grant agreement, we have the subcontractors. It can be also an important partner in your grant agreement. They do work, so they participate in the action if it's necessary for the implementation. And normally the subcontracts will concern implementation of action tasks. So it's parts of the project that has been outsourced and they have been identified in Annex 1 of your grant agreement. So it's when you plan, when you foresee that you will have certain task project outsourced, subcontracted, and then you identify that in your Annex 1. Here there is a specificity regarding subcontractors, and it's that what we call that the simplified approval procedure is allowed. This means that if, for instance, during your proposal stage, you did not foresee that you will have a subcontracting, you can still flag this in the reporting stage. Okay, so you can flag that you will use subcontracting as long as this will not call into question the award decision or reach the principle of equal treatment of applicants. But otherwise, it will any change would require an amendment. But just to let you know that for subcontractors, the simplified approval procedure is allowed. But again, be careful here because it's at the discretion of the granting authority to accept this new subcontracting. So the beneficiary really bears the risk of the rejection of the cost. That being said, what I mean is that in order to avoid any errors, please try to plan your subcontracting task in advance and have them on your Annex 1. A few words on the cost. Well, the eligible cost is the price that is charged to the beneficiary, and we must ensure best value for money and avoid a conflict of interest. Another important piece of information that sometimes leads to errors is that subcontracted between beneficiaries is not allowed. Okay, so normally we consider that if a beneficiary needs to carry out a task in the project, it should do it itself. It should not subcontract to other beneficiary. Why? It's because of sound financial management reasons, meaning that if the beneficiary can do the tax by themselves, we want to avoid that they subcontract to another entity, which could create a profit margin for the beneficiary. So that is not allowed. And to affiliated is not allowed either. And the last type of participant that I wanted to mention today, it's another type of third parties, and is the parties giving in-kind contributions. So here we have some novelties in Horizon Europe, and the key message that I want to pass to you is that in-kind contributions against payment, you will not find a specific article anymore in your model grant agreement. Why? Because we now consider, according to the financial regulation, that in-kind contributions refer only to contributions free of charge. In any case, in Horizon Europe, we have a derogation, which comes from our own basic act, our regulation, where we still allowed and want to valorize in-kind contributions in our projects, because they are quite often used for carrying out tasks. So we said that, okay, in-kind contributions against payment can be still be eligible, and they can be declared depending on the nature of the cost. So you normally will be declared in the relevant cost category depending on the nature. So if you have a seconded person, for instance, against payment, you will not have a specific article for this in-kind contribution, but you can declare the cost under a personal cost category for seconded persons. The same for renting equipment or for purchasing. So here the main idea is that both free or charge and against payment, you can have them in Horizon Europe, okay? And they must be declared by the beneficiary which use them, as if they were their own cost. So this is the logic we apply in Horizon Europe. I hope it's clear. Here I will just share a slide. It's actually a screenshot from the AGA. It's an overview of the participants' roles and what type of cost they can declare and some conditions for participation. So it's very useful. I encourage you to check the AGA to learn more about the participants' role. And also, main message here on this slide, it's about really try to make sure you have a written internal consortium agreement where you will set out the internal rules of the consortium, the rights, the obligations, etc. It's internal for your consortium, but it can really help you to ensure a smooth implementation of the action and to avoid any troubles and any errors in the future. Okay, and now we will move to the type of costs, second part of my presentation. Here, just a small disclaimer, I will be talking only about actual cost. Actually, I will not be talking about lump sum or any other form of simplified cost, unit cost, etc. I understand there will be a webinar also this week on lump sum funding. So if you're interested in that, please check that webinar. But today, we will only focus on the actual cost. And again, piece of advice and to help you to avoid any errors is really to check the eligibility conditions. So I encourage you to consult Article 6.1 of the Horizon Europe Model Grant Agreement. And here you can find many of the answers that you are asking yourself about the eligibility of your costs. And let's start by talking about the general eligibility conditions that are linked to your actual cost. So first of all, cost must be actually incurred by the beneficiary. What does it mean? It has to be genuinely and really incurred in the accounts of the beneficiary. It's not valid that it's an estimation or it's a budgeted cost. It has to be actually and genuinely borne by the beneficiary, and it has to be incurred during the action duration. Costs that happen before or after are generally not eligible, with few exceptions. You have to use one of the budget categories that are provided for in the grant agreement. It was one of the annexes that we showed before. Importantly, the cost must be incurred in connection with the action, as you describe it in Annex 1. And they have to be necessary for its implementation. So it's not valid that you will charge to the action some cost that you incur of some personnel that was not working for the action. So also bear this in mind. They have to be identifiable and verifiable. This means that they have to be recorded in the beneficiary's accounts. And also very important, and it's something you will hear throughout the presentation, in accordance with the usual accounting practices of the beneficiary. That means that we want to see what's the usual practice of the beneficiary, not only some practice that they are doing just for Horizon Europe. So if you're setting up some sort of scheme to comply with the cost categories of Horizon Europe, but then you don't use it for other projects, then we don't consider that is your usual accounting practice. So it's a concept that it's also very important in our grants. Of course, they have to comply with applicable laws, and costs have to be reasonable and justified and comply with the principle of sound financial management. This means that, yes, we want to see what's the real cost, and that is really reasonable. It doesn't, it's not allowed that you, for instance, inflate cost or, yes, buy something else that you don't need so much because you will find the money in the grant. So really, this is a very important requirement, and bear in mind as well. This is just a screenshot of the estimated budget. It's very small, I know, but you have in mind what you will find in your grant. Okay, and now we're gonna break down the type of cost that we will have in the grant agreement. So these are the main cost categories. We first have the personal costs. We will talk about it in a few moments. Subcontracting costs. So when you contract works to another entity, is where we're talking about the subcontractors. We have another important cost category, which are purchase costs, and it's really the purchases that you made for your actions. So any travel or subsistence accommodation costs for trips that are necessary for the project, like a trip for a meeting, trip for visiting a project on the ground, etc. If they are justified, they can be eligible. Cost for the equipment that is used for the project. Normally, we can only pay the depreciation costs. We will talk about it in a minute. And costs for other works, goods and services. Then we can find another type of cost categories, such as financial support to third parties, internal invoices, or access to research infrastructure. It's cost categories that would be activated in your grant if it have been foreseen in your call. And of course, we have also indirect costs, which are at 25% flat rate, which is applied in most of the other budget categories. Yes, and here I just wanted to share a couple of examples of common errors and questions that we see throughout the implementation, which is, for instance, to confuse subcontracts with purchases. So just to mention that the subcontract really concerns the implementation of action tasks that are described in Annex 1, while any other costs that are for contracting, for purchasing, things that are necessary to implement the work, but they don't not constitute an action task, those are purchases. Typically, it can be consumables or like office supplies, also cost for dissemination and exploitation obligations, etc. So normally the purchases are limited in scope, while the subcontracts are wide in scope. So these are the type of difference that you have to pay attention to avoid any errors in the future. Another common error that we have seen is regarding the declaration of equipment costs. So in Horizon Europe, we now have 4 different options to declare your costs for equipment. So the default option, the general rule, is depreciation only. But then there are certain exceptions that can be allowed only if it was foreseen in your call. So please check the call conditions of the action you are going to implement and see if the conditions allow for the declaration of full cost. Sometimes you can declare full cost for listed equipment or full cost only, but this is really only used exceptionally. Is used when it's really justified by the nature of the action and it's in the context of the works that you will be carrying out. For instance, if really the purpose of the action is to develop a prototype, then maybe in your call conditions you will find that full cost was allowed. So please check this before you charge a full amount for or you buy a expensive equipment, because probably the default option is that you will only be able to charge depreciation costs. Okay, and now we're going to talk about personnel costs, which are the biggest cost category in our grants, and certainly the one which is also more prone to errors. And here in the slides, I would like to show you the 4 types of categories of personnel that we have in our grant agreement. So first of all, we have the employees. So it's the personnel who is working for the beneficiary under an employment contract or an equivalent appointed act. There are 3 types of cases in Horizon Europe. Today, due to the time constraint, we are only focusing on the first one, and employees with a basic fixed salary. Secondly, we have the cost for natural persons which are working under a direct contract, which is not an employment contract. So it's another type of contract. Normally, it's the situation of in-house consultants. And we also have cost for seconded persons by a third party against payment. So this is typically a secondment where the beneficiary signs a secondment agreement with a third party, and then the person can work in the project. And there are certain conditions attached to this category. For instance, the seconded person have to work under similar conditions to those of an employee, and the result belongs to the beneficiary. And finally, we will also allow in Horizon Europe the cost for SME owners, so owners of SMEs that are not receiving a salary. And finally, the cost for natural persons, which are not receiving a salary either. So this you will find in the category A4. Okay, and now moving to the last part of the presentation, I would like to focus a bit more in the, let's say, the most common case for the declaration of personnel costs that we have, and it's a case of employees with a fixed salary, okay? So the basic principles that I want you to retain today is that we have a corporate formula in Horizon Europe. This is a novelty that we have introduced with the corporate approach that I was explaining at the beginning of the presentation. And this has been done really for simplification reasons. So we have a commission-wide formula that will be valid across other programs as well. So the principle of this formula is there is a single calculation once per reporting period per person that work in the action. Okay, this will cover most of the situations encountered, and it's based in this formula that you see on the screen, which is a multiplication between day equivalents worked on the action up to a maximum number declarable. I will explain in a minute. What does it mean? Multiplied by the daily rate. So this is a bit, a lot of information, but we are going to break down every part of the formula, and hopefully we can have some clarity on their parts. So first of all, what are the day equivalents working the action? It's simply the sum of the day equivalents that are actually work in the action, and then we are going to round them to the nearest half. And these days actually work in the action are recorded in the beneficiaries' accounts. Where have to be recorded? Well, you can choose between having a reliable time recording system, or you can also use a monthly declarations on days spent for the action. There is a commission template. You will find it in the funding and tenders portal. It's a very simple template where you can use it to record your days. And the most important notion here is that you ensure consistency. So you can choose between the recording keeping method, but we really want you to use it across the reporting period and at least per category of personnel that works under similar conditions. And if you want more information, please check Article 20 of the MGA and also the explanations in the AGA where we explain everything about record keeping in detail. Now, about the concept of maximum declarable day equivalence. So the main notion here and the message that I want you to take from this slide, it's we have a double capping in Horizon Europe. It's a new concept that we have introduced. And what does it mean? Well, it means that we have a horizontal ceiling. This is a ceiling, a cap that will ensure that you don't declare more than 215 days per calendar year across all the EU and Euratom grants. This is to avoid that you have double funding from the union budget. So this is the horizontal ceiling, and then we also have a reporting period ceiling, which means that the number of day equivalents in your action is also capped at the maximum declarable days per reporting period. How do you calculate your maximum declarable days? Well, you have the formula here. It's a pro rata of 215. You divide it, and you multiply by the number of months within the reporting period in which the person is employed. So if you have a reporting period of 18 months, you just have to take the months during which the person for which you are calculating the personal cost was employed with you and was working on the action. And then you multiply this figure by the working time factor, which is basically your work pattern. So it's 1 for full-time, 0.5 if you work part-time, etc. This was the first part of the formula, and now my last slide of today, I think, is the calculation of the daily rate, which is the second part of the formula. And this is simply the actual personnel cost of your personnel incurred during the month of the reporting period that this person was working. And here we divide it again and we cap it to the maximum declarable day equivalence. Remember, that was the figure that we calculated following the previous slide. So here again, we have the pro rata of 215. So we introduce a horizontal common factor that we cap here also the daily rate. And just very briefly, what can you include in your daily rate? Well, basically, these are the eligible costs that are recorded in your statutory accounts. What can you include and what can be considered an eligible cost? Well, obviously, you have the fixed salary for the person that's working for you, but also you can have any other contributions that are legally mandatory by law. You have security, social security, taxes. You can also have some complements if they are based on objective criteria, if they are defined and at least some internal rules of the beneficiary and they are paid in consistent manner, or other type of payments linked to remuneration if they are duly justified. Typical example can be the Christmas pay or the 13th salary, this type of complements that are allowed by your contract. You can also include them in the eligible cost for the calculation of the daily rate. What you cannot include is any remuneration which has not been an actual cost for the beneficiary. And here we go back to the general eligibility conditions that I mentioned before. It has to be really a remuneration, a salary for a person that is working in the action, that is connected to the action. You cannot include, of course, any arbitrary bonuses that are not objective or the distribution of dividends. Okay, so this is a bit of an overview how you can calculate your personal cost. I hope it was clear. I advise you again to go consult the annotated grant agreement. You will find many explanations, best practices, examples on how to calculate the personal costs. And the last message I wanted to pass you, apart from some links, if you're looking for more information, maybe if you are not aware of it, there is a research inquiry service platform. It's a service that is available to you. You can easily find it in the portal. And it's basically a help desk where you can put any questions and send it to us. You will have a selected menu of a range of topics. And if you select the legal and financial issues topic, we will receive your question and we will be able to provide you with a reply. And up to here, my presentation. I hope it's clear.
Thank you.
And we'll see. We have questions.
Thank you very much, Selene. We have plenty of questions for you.
Okay.
So if Olivier can put them on screen. Thank you. So first question, and that was already answered for before, but well, probably they want now a legal advice. Can the project officer request to see the consortium agreement?
I think the question was answered before.
It was by Petros. So if you want to take it, we go to the next one.
No, just to say that, well, it was the same that Petros said. Normally, you're not legally required to, we're not requiring to see the consortium agreement. Maybe there is any reason why the project officer is asking you. You can share it in good faith, but I don't think there is an obligation to do that.
Clear enough. UK calls 2023. It is still necessary to plan UK participants as participants and change to associated partners only at the stage of grant agreement preparation?
Yeah, unfortunately, I am not in a position to answer this question about UK association. I think we have to wait for official guidance. We have some guidance already published in the funding and tender portal. There is a number of FAQ published, so I advise you to consult them. But
and
yes,
in addition, we had a special topic actually on UK association on the 5th October in the Horizon Implementation Day, finding opportunities and submitting a proposal in Horizon Europe. Maybe your question was answered there. Just check the video, please. Next question. The annotated model grant agreement is still only available as draft, correct? When can we expect the definitive version?
Yes. So the annotated grant agreement, as I was explaining before, this is a corporate document, corporate guidance document, which will serve to interpret common provisions that are applicable to all funding programs. So this is still a work in progress. It requires coordination and consultation with several commission services. So it's still work in progress. It's a living document. We are trying to update it as quickly as possible. We have already released annotations for core parts of the agreement, like the articles focusing on cost. But it's true that there are some parts that are still draft, that are not final. And yes, we are working on finishing the AGA, but yes, we ask you for patience because as you may understand, this is a very important document and it requires a lot of coordination and consistency among services.
Just before you continue, I see Isabel actually can answer the UK questions. Isabel, can you take the floor, please?
Yes. No, as you know, the UK will be associated to Horizon Europe, starting with the calls funded with the budget of 2024. So in the information of the call, when you go to the budget in the portal, you will have information on the year in which this budget is coming. If it is not 2024, then the UK will only be able to participate as associated partner. But the rules, so the guidance that we publish in the portal is that still you can include it as beneficiary in the proposal, but then during GAP you will have to change if the decisions are kept as today. Yeah. So these are the instructions that we publish today.
Thank you, Isabel, and sorry for not seeing your message in the chat, but I cannot read the chat at the same time as the question, sorry. So next question for Selene. In-kind contribution against payment purchase. Best value for money has to be proved. Is the fact that it is cost-based, not price charge, sufficient?
Yes, so as I was explaining before, we don't have a specific article on in-kind contributions against payment anymore. But still, you might still be able to declare costs under the relevant cost category. So I understand here you would like to declare a purchase cost as an in-kind contribution, but you will declare it in the purchase cost category. So what it's important here is that this declaration of the cost have to comply not only with the general eligibility criteria, but also with the specific criteria of the category that you will declare it. In this case, it's a purchase cost, so indeed, one of the requirements is a requirement best value for money and also non-conflict of interest. Best value for money not always will require a competitive selection procedure, but indeed you will need to prove that the price and the value was price market and that there were criteria defining the quality and so on. So indeed, if the audit comes and they ask you to prove best value for money, you will need to be able to show them these requirements.
Thank you. The next question is about affiliated entities. Who and at which stage controls the legal or capital link? Is it checked, has to be proved during grant agreement preparation, or is it trust-based, not proved?
I think this question was more for the previous presentation on the validation of entities, but I think it has to be proved during the gap and the validation of entities. It was explained before by REA.
Okay, thank you. In-kind against payment and best value for money. When can we have certainty that it is up to the third-party cost? It is fine. When will the EIP be available?
I don't understand very much the question, but I think it's linked to the first one that I replied, that indeed you will have to show best value for money. What is important is that you are able to show to the auditors, if they come from an audit, that you indeed ensured the best value for money, that the price was market value, even if you didn't have a competitive selection criteria, and so on. Normally, if you would pay up to the cost of the third party, I would say it's fine, but I will not give a certain reply here. Concerning the indicative audit plan, it's also work in progress. We understand it's a very important document for our beneficiaries. We are working on it, but again, this will come from the corporate approach, so it will serve other programs, other funding programs, and unfortunately, I cannot give you an indicative date for publication. But you can rely on the AGA and on the explanations, and they are already very useful, I think, to help you if you have any doubts.
Thank you. We were supposed to finish at 12:45, but we still have plenty of questions, so if you don't mind, we'll go through them. Would you recommend that associated entities sign the consortium agreement?
Yes, of course. I would recommend that any participant on the project signs the consortium agreement. As I explained before, it's a very important piece of information for running the smooth implementation of your project internally. So yes, definitely.
Associated partners, do they have to report on the implemented number of person months? The number of person months is planned in the proposal. It is also part of the grant agreement?
I think this question relates more to reporting, so I don't have the clear answer to that. I think Isabel came in.
Yes.
Yes. Indeed, so there was a question in my session. Yes, in the person months of the associated partners should be included in the description of the action. But at the time you report the cost, you will not be asked in the tool to encode the person months for the associated partners because we are not paying the cost. However, you can always, and you must always include information in the narrative part of the reporting about the activities done by the associated partners and also the effort. But this is not something that we will take into account at the time of the payment of the beneficiaries. Yes.
Thank you, Isabel. Why can we use the budget that was allocated to the UK partner of the project? Sorry, they switched. So why can we use the budget that was allocated to the UK partner of the project?
I don't really understand the question because you allocated budget to an UK entity, but they're currently they are not eligible to receive the funding. So I don't see what you had allocated budget to the UK part.
Maybe I can help because I think I understand the question. So when we didn't have information about the date in which the UK will be associated to the program, the instructions is that the UK participants are to be associated participants. So in a proposal, they can be included as beneficiaries with budget. However, if during GAP the association agreement was not signed, then they had to be moved to associated partners. And of course, if the associated partner is there, so you keep it with the activities, of course, you cannot allocate the budget to this associated partner to the rest of the participants. I think this is what the question is about. Yeah.
Thank you. In-kind contribution against payment and best value for money. Can you please give us an answer that is certain? How can we have certainty?
Yes, the best way to have certainty is that you will contact your project officer and really ask the question with the concrete case, because I think I gave the general guidance, but I think the project officer, which is in charge of your project, would certainly be more helpful. Sorry for that.
Can a third party, a question from Anne. Hello, Anne. Can a third party through a contribution execute activities described in the description of action?
A third party through a contribution? Well, it will depend on what type of role this third party will have. I understand you have not foreseen the participation on the action of the third party. A contribution, maybe you mean an in-kind contribution? Maybe you're referring here to a third party giving in-kind contributions. Yes, that is possible. The activities are described in the Annex 1. If you haven't flagged the participation of this in-kind contribution, you may have to request for an amendment of your grant agreement, but also I think for in-kind contributions, you may have a simplified approval procedure, and you can flag it to the granting authority in the technical reporting.
Thank you. How to calculate the number of days worked on the project if, for example, each day 40 or 60% of the day is spent on a project?
How to calculate the number of days? I guess here you're talking about the working factor. So a person that is not working fully on the project, but it just have a working pattern that is working for the Horizon Europe action. In that case, you can do a pro rata of the working time factor. So if it's full time, you do 1, you multiply by 1. If it's 40%, you make a 0.4 multiplication for in your declaration of personal cost. I think that's what you mean.
Okay, next question. The principal investigator administratively belongs to the coordinator, but financially to beneficiary 2. We cannot add beneficiary 2 as affiliated entity. Project officer does not want the principal investigator to be declared to beneficiary 2. What do we do?
I think this is a very specific case. You will have. I advise that you send it that you send the question to us via the research inquiry service, because I think you're referring to an affiliated entity. But yeah, I would like to have all the details. So please send the question in writing, and we can be able to provide you with a reply.
Thank you. We still have time for a couple more questions. Can a partner from the UK be considered an associated partner from the UK on a call announced in 2023, in kind free of charge?
Yes, a UK entity can be considered an associated partner, provided that respect with any call conditions and any specific conditions that you will find in the topic itself. But generally speaking, I would say that an entity established in the UK could be considered associated partner.
Next question. We are already 3 years into a 7 years program. How can we minimize the error rate in the guidance, full annotated grant agreement indicative audit program, if not yet available?
Yes, we are aware that these documents are very much awaited by beneficiaries. We rest assured that we're really working on them. The annotated grant agreement already provides you with a lot of detailed explanation and examples and guidance. So please just be patient and rely on the AGA. Also rely on your national contact points. They can be very helpful to resolve any of the questions that you have. You can also contact us always for the help desk, for the research inquiry service. And yeah, for the moment, this is the guidance that we have available, and we will have to wait to have full documents. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we should close here. We have one more thing from Isabel. Isabel would like to answer a question about lump sum that was posed earlier. Thank you very much, Selene.
Thank you so much.
Yes, there was a question about whether in the part B of the description of the action, they should keep the tables on budget costs, other cost categories, and in-kind contributions for lump sums. And the answer is no. For lump sums, you don't have to keep those tables. Step 1, you have to keep the subcontracting costs table. This one, you have to do it. And the instructions of the template, so the template of a description of action that include instructions already provides this information. So what you have to keep for lump sums. Nothing else. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Isabel. So just to finalize, I would like to remember to everybody that all these trainings are saved, they are kept. You can look at them in the Research and Innovation Community Platform. Future trainings are always announced under the events page in the Funding and Tenders portal. And the next 2 ones that we are having are on the 19th October, this Thursday, lump sum funding in Horizon Europe. And on the 24th October, we have the 3rd Horizon Implementation Day. This one is about grant management in Horizon Europe. Basically, it will be reporting and amendments. Reporting and payments and amendments. So with that, I would like to finalize. Thank you, saying thank you to all the participants, all the speakers that came today, and a special thanks to you for being here to support us for this full morning. Hope to see you next time. Bye.